Hello everyone, and welcome back to the only podcast on the internet that can testify in a court of law that Han did in fact shoot first. I am Jimbo of YouTube's The Jimbo Channel, that is Tyler of Metroid's Prime, and this is the Nerd Bucket Podcast, the only podcast that you need to know for anything. We are seriously going to tell you guys how to be more awesome. We are going to give you all of your awesome news, TV, video games, movies, top fives, reader questions. Dude, we got it all. I mean, you can't listen to totally unnecessary podcasts all the time, so you listen to us sometimes. I hope. Please, for God's sakes, listen to us. All right, so Tyler is wearing a Thundercat shirt today, which I think is fucking awesome. I mean, it's just... He's out nerding me today. I'm just wearing like a generic like Higher Ride a Motorcycle shirt, but no, Tyler is he's Nerd Bucket champion today.
Well, thank you, Jimbo.
Sure, I'm downgraded to part-time co-host right now because I'm not very nerdy right now, but that's okay. But we got a lot to cover, man. I would say so. I mean, I'm looking at our agenda here, so I have a cheat sheet, but yeah, we've got a lot. Oh
yeah, man, we've got a brand new top 5 for this week, and I don't want to say what it is now. I want to keep it a surprise for the listeners later in the podcast. But we've got a ton of new movie announcements, new TV announcements, and, of course, your latest news that we're giving you every week here on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And this week we've got a ton of questions from the listeners. And thanks, guys, for sending those in. It's going to be a lot of fun answering those questions this week.
Absolutely.
But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the games we've been playing this week.
Yes.
You want to start off?
Fuck yeah. Thanks for asking. All right, so last week I brought it, man. I was like, last time I was all over the map, playing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to underwhelm you guys today. I've really only been playing Far Cry 4, mainly because just a little bit of a mix of not a lot of time and the fact that I've been having a lot of fun doing it. I play mainly with my co-host rather, of Dirt Flicks, Mr. Ray Wild. He's like my favorite Far Cry 4 companion in co-op. And if any of you out there listening to my channel, or tune into my channel rather, you can check out a bunch of replays that I've done, some gameplay captures of really funny shit that actually happens inside of that game. And it's like every single time we play, something even stupider than the time before happens. So if you have not checked out Far Cry 4, man, it is an absolute gem on Xbox One and PS4 for co-op. It's so much fun. It's not a lot of money. I think it's, at regular price, I think it's $40 right now. Which, given the size of the game that you get, this world is fucking huge. I can't plug this enough, guys. Check it out. But that does it for me for gameplay for the week.
Yeah, I've been watching the gameplay footage you've been putting up on your website. There's some pretty crazy stuff going on in that game. I saw the helicopter running over a hedgehog or honey badger.
It took out the honey badger. Yeah, nice. That was totally unplanned. It was just kind of, we're out there hunting for honey badger coats because part of the game is you have to get like skins to upgrade like your weapons pouch so you can carry more guns and stuff like that. It has a very practical application, and we just happened to have a helicopter with us, and you saw with my bow I was getting ready to take the thing out, and my buddy just zooms in with the freaking helicopter and runs it over. And I didn't think you could kill anything with a helicopter except yourself, but apparently
you stand corrected.
No, I definitely stand corrected. There's a lot more funny stuff that I haven't uploaded to YouTube, guys. There's some shit with rhinos that is gonna blow your mind. Like, this was the kind of oh shit moment that I think all of us have been waiting for, where you're just like, oh my god, that just happened. So stay tuned, more Far Cry. Whoa, what is that, like Far Cry and foreplay put together? Hey baby, let's get into the Far Cry. We're getting sexy on the Nerd Bucket today. No, that's a lot more Far Cry coming. Stay tuned to the Jimbo channel. I appreciate everyone watching. But over to Tyler to tell us how much of a bigger nerd this week he is than I am.
Well, I've got a couple this week. Finally finished Crimson Skies, and awesome. Was glad to get that off the list there. But I actually got Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. Okay. And it's a game that I've really been wanting to play for a long time, but I just never picked it up. And it's an interesting story, kind of how the two universes collide. And it's pretty fun so far. I'm playing the story mode, and it's not as good as Gods Among Us. That was a great game. Doesn't have like the super moves like that game did. Did you ever play Injustice?
No, I haven't played it actually.
Oh man, you would love that. I love the way they do these fighting games.
Hmm.
The Injustice Gods Among Us, they did this DC versus Mortal Kombat too, but
Hmm.
they have like really interesting story modes. So there's kind of like a cutscene. You go to the fight, and it just goes, throughout the story. But you start off picking either Mortal Kombat or DC. So I start off with DC,
Hmm.
and I'm working my way through that campaign. But it's really fun.
Awesome.
And then I played a original Xbox game. I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was called Tao Fing.
Fist of the
You remember
Lotus.
that? Yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yes.
I've had that for a while. I picked it up off eBay. I think I got it for like $5 sealed, and I believe you can still buy that game on eBay right now for $5 sealed. But anyways, I tried to play a little bit of that, and wow, that has not aged well at all. That it's interesting. I believe it was actually developed by a guy that worked on the original Mortal Kombat,
Hmm.
but each fight I believe has 3 rounds instead of two with like your traditional fighting games. But it really hadn't aged well. The unique thing about this game was you could have like limb damage and stuff. So I guess if you take so much damage in a certain area, you won't be able to use that limb, or I guess you take increased damage. But I was able to play about 30 to 45 minutes before I was like, I need to move on to something else.
Nice.
But then to round it up, I've been playing. I decided to go back through Super Mario 64,
Nice.
and that's a classic. I haven't played it in several years, so I wanted to go back through it. So I'm right at the beginning of that, and of course I played a little more Rare Replay. But that about rounds up my game playing for this week.
Awesome, man. Good choices. You make me want to be more retro. You just kind of made me realize, like, you know what? I don't play enough old games. I guess I need to do that
Well,
more.
see, last year I played more just modern games, and I was like, man, I've got all these retro games. I need to go back through my library and play some of these other games that
Hmm.
that I've played before, but it's been a while, so I can get that appreciation for them again.
Absolutely.
But
Awesome.
yeah, I think this would be a good time to go into our top secret top five here.
Whoa.
And
All
since
right.
we have so much TV and movie news
Sure.
this week, I thought it'd be good to kind of warm us up to talk about that by giving our top 5 TV shows of all time.
Okay.
But there's one caveat with that.
Okay.
It has to be a TV show that is completed. So it can't be something that's currently running.
Okay. Fair enough. That certainly gives
All
us a
right.
lot to choose from.
Yep.
Can we do this in no particular order since I'm a slacker and didn't number mine?
Oh, you didn't number them.
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I numbered mine, but go ahead and do yours in
Okay.
no particular order.
All right, no particular order because this would take me a while to boil these five down to which one I like more than the other. So it's all good. If you want to do yours in order, that's fine. But
All right.
we'll randomize mine. I don't really think that we could talk about great TV shows that have been completed without covering a lot of the ones that I think most people, whether they watched them or not, would consider them landmark shows. Shows that really changed the game. And the one that I can think of in our modern era that really pushed the focus more away from movies and more towards television, since a lot of the critics seem to agree that TV is better than movies now. We're kind of in this second golden age of television where the quality of TV is pretty much as high as it could possibly be. That show that I'm referring to would be Lost. A lot of people might disagree, saying it didn't end properly. Well, I'm going to focus more on the spirit of the show here. In my opinion, Lost is probably one of the best pilots in the history of television. Like, as far as it hooks you because you don't have all the answers to all the questions. Like, you've got way more questions than you have answers. It introduces a ton of revolving characters, a very interesting place, and it just does something that very few other shows have been able to do. It introduced this really huge element of mystery back to TV on this island where literally you find out anything can happen. There's like a monster on the island. There's people returning from the dead, so to speak. There's The island has a really checkered past and shady history, and just so many things about that show revolutionized television. That I think was like the first one that really kickstarted the golden age of the 21st century of television. You know, that was the one that kind of got things going. The I Live Lucy, I guess you could say, of the 21st century, that really brought about the big change in television, the way we see television, making things an anthology, making things episodic. You know, all of these things. You know, it didn't have to just be like the story of the week kind of thing. The whole thing could be one giant interconnected story, almost like it was a movie unfolding in tiny little chunks. So, in no particular order, I'll put Lost as my 5.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I've actually got that in my honorable mentions, but
Okay.
I totally agree with that. I think that's one of the great TV shows of our generation, and it was really a pop culture phenomenon back
It
then.
was.
I mean, regardless of if you say it ended or not, you know, the right way.
Right.
I think at that point, a lot of people probably had figured out what was going on
Yeah.
on the island or whatever. But regardless, it doesn't take anything away from how good that TV show was.
No, that was the first show that I remember as an adult where the events that transpired on that show were a common topic around the office, you know, at work. Like you see last night's episode, like, you know, what do you think Sawyer's doing? You know, what do you think this is happening? It was like all these people coming up with theories and everything as far as what's actually going on. I agree with what you said. It was definitely, at its peak, it was an absolute phenomenon.
As a little aside here, do you by any chance have the Blu-ray set for Lost?
I do not.
It is really cool. It's actually got like a map and like hidden things on it, and kind of a board game or something like that with
Awesome.
it. So uh, I don't believe they manufacture it anymore, but you can find it on eBay. But that's a really cool Blu-ray set.
Awesome.
You can pick it up. All right, for my number 5, I have a remake of a TV show. It's sci-fi, and that TV show is Battlestar Galactica.
Saw that one coming.
And that is a great TV show if you've never seen it. It has some amazing acting in it, from Edward James Olmos to Michael Hogan, Mary McDonald. And I could go on and on about the cast, but a really interesting story. Basically, the planet is ruined that they all live on as an entire race. They're trying to find somewhere to call home. And, of course, the machines that the humans created to serve them actually turn against them and are trying to kill them. And so they're running from the sidelines. And just a great story. It's interesting for a sci-fi movie because they don't actually like use lasers and photons and stuff like that. Like the ships have nukes. They're shooting like machine guns on the actual little fighter ships and stuff like that. So it's kind of a more realistic approach, if you can call that realistic, you know, with androids and all that. But I love Battlestar Galactica, and that was another show that kind of had a controversial ending to
Yeah.
it, but I thought it ended well.
I think any good show, there's never going to be the perfect ending that satisfies everyone. I mean, there really isn't. Like, even if you satisfy, like, the status quo, there's always going to be that sliver of people who are like, you know, that ending's fucking bullshit. They didn't do it right. Like, even Seinfeld, you know, the biggest thing on television, by a huge margin when it ran, even that ending, you know, caught some flack. And I'm like, dude, it's a sitcom. Like, you know, how are you supposed to end it? It's a show about nothing. So
Right.
it's audiences are fickle, man. Like you're never gonna please everybody. You know, some endings are better than others. The Lost ending, I thought, I mean, you know, it could have been better, but I didn't hate it. You know, I thought it answered the big question. You know, what actually happened. But it left you with a few mysteries too, and I think it should.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it can't answer everything. You know, you need to wonder at least a couple things. So it's all good. Okay, so moving on to my number 4 in no discernible or particular order. I'm going to go with a bit of an underdog here because it only had like 1.5 seasons. I guess you could call it 2 seasons, but the second season was ultra short. That would be a show on CBS called Jericho, which I felt was one of the best written and best acted shows that was on television at the time it was on. Basically what it's about a little town, I think in Kansas, called Jericho, where This army vet is returning home to his family, I think, to claim, excuse me, some inheritance or something like that. And basically, while he's there, the United States gets attacked. They don't exactly know by who, but they look up in the sky and they see like ICBMs screaming over the sky. And the next thing you know, most of the major cities are gone. You know, Denver, DC, all of them have been nuked basically. So I guess you could say, I mean, right when it kicks off on the pilot, World War III begins. And it's basically just about the exploits of this town that's trying to survive. You know, they're having to deal with things that a lot of us would have trouble identifying with. You know, having ample electricity, having ample food, you know, dealing with people trying to come in the town and steal, you know, all their provisions and stuff, you know, dealing with infighting amongst the citizens. The main character is played by Skeet Ulrich, and his father is actually from Simon and Simon fame. He plays I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, fuck, it's totally escaping me right now. He was Rick Simon on Simon and Simon, but anyways, Gerald McRaney, and he's the mayor of the town. So there's all this infighting among people fighting over food. You know, that luckily they're in the heartland, so there's a lot of farms and stuff. But you know, just all these small town problems, I guess you could say, being exacerbated by the fact that they're in the middle of World War III. They don't know what's going on. There's no television or anything. There's no intelligence coming out of DC. All they know is they've been attacked. They don't know if it's a domestic attack. They don't know if it's, you know, China or Korea or whatever. They're just completely cut off from the rest of the world, basically. And this is the first show, I think, with the exception of Family Guy, that I remember where when the show was canceled, the backlash from the fans was so huge that the network actually responded. Not just with a letter or some kind of bullshit. They brought the show back for a second season, kind of a micro season. They're like, okay, here's the deal. You guys want it back on the air? We'll give you 7 episodes. Give us the ratings, and we'll keep going. Which I think is a fair proposal. I mean, it's like, okay, you know, we'll pay for 7 episodes, which is probably a couple $1 million an episode, probably 14-15 million bucks. And you know, you guys just got to give us the ratings. And unfortunately, the ratings just weren't there. I tuned into every single one. You know, I was Facebooking, tweeting, and all this other shit. Like, guys, watch this show. We got to keep it on the air. Unfortunately, this is before Netflix was actually reviving old shows, because I think they probably would have picked this up. This would have been their cup of tea, but unfortunately, we didn't have another network rescuing this. So they actually shot 2 endings to the second season, just in case it would go one way or the other. And it definitely had a definitive ending. You know, the way that it ended, because it was obviously being canceled. Like, you could see the progression of the way the war was going. There is the alternate ending on YouTube if any of you were curious, and it does end on a cliffhanger. So I thought that was really cool that they did that. I could not talk about shows like this without talking about at least one underdog, and that's solid entry in mine. But what is yours, my friend?
All right, for number 4, I have 6 Feet Under.
Nice.
And this was actually done by Alan Ball, the guy who brought us True Blood, Banshee. It was one of his first TV series. I believe his first was actually maybe Sybil on CBS or something like that. But he's moved on to bigger and better things now. Banshee, if any of you are watching that, you know how good that is. But basically, any show this guy works on is amazing. The reason True Blood fell off is because this guy left to go do other things, and
Ouch.
And that's when True Blood started going downhill. But 6 Feet Under was about the Fisher family, and they ran a funeral home, and basically every episode started off with somebody's death, and then they followed the actual family, I guess, that was, or whoever was around that person, like burying the individual until they were actually buried. And the family was so real. They faced a lot of real problems, and it had such amazing acting in it. And I will say 6 Feet Under probably has one of the best final episodes of any show you will ever see. Definitely check it out, especially if you have HBO Go. All of them are online or on demand. Download them, watch them. It's only like 4 or 5 seasons, but some of the best TV you will ever watch.
I actually have a personal story about 6 Feet Under, sort of. I actually got to meet Freddie Rodriguez once, one of the stars of the show. I was working for a cable company at the time, and this is when 6 Feet Under was at its peak of hype, and he actually came to visit us and just talk to us and stuff like that. And he was there to do pictures and everything. Really freaking tiny dude, man. Like, I put my arm around this guy and he was like coming up to here. He's like probably 5'6", 5'7", really freaking micro guy, but really, really sweet dude. Like, he really was. He was just the most approachable and lovable guy. You know, thanked you for watching the show. You know, thanked you for everything. Like, oh, have a nice day. Really, really cool guy.
That's cool.
Yeah, man, he's a cool dude. So my number 3. I couldn't do this list without picking one from the 80s. I mean, you know, this is the Nerd Bucket. Tyler and I are both products of the 1980s, so I couldn't go through this list without at least picking one. And I'm going to pick the one that basically, in my eyes, basically defined the 1980s on every level, with music, fashion, just the aura of it, like the attitude, the politics, everything like that. This one show basically completely encapsulated the 1980s.
I have a feeling I know what this is.
This would be Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, I'm sure a lot of you heard this story. There's a very infamous story that goes around about how Miami Vice started, where Brandon Tartikoff, the head of NBC, was at a dinner or some type of conference or something like that, and he, I think it was, he handed Anthony Yerkovich, who created the show, a napkin with 2 words written on it for the show he wanted. It said MTV Cops. And Anthony Yerkovich basically created Miami Vice just based on those 2 words. Like, MTV was starting to get its struthers and was really starting to become a really huge influence on pop culture. You know, it brought music to television. And, you know, back when MTV actually played fucking videos, but, you know, the internet, I guess, kind of replaced that. And everything about the show, the pilot, again, one of my favorite pilots of all time, because it plays like a movie. You could almost take that by itself, and it would be like one of the perfect 80s action films, because it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It does end on sort of a cliffhanger, because it's the 2 guys coming together to basically to become partners, but you could really call that a movie. And for any of you who have not seen it, guys, I think the whole thing is on Netflix. I cannot recommend it enough. If you are a product of the 80s like we are, guys, the fashion. I mean, like, Don Johnson not wearing socks on that show cut sock sales 30%. I'm not exaggerating. That is a fucking fact. That is, I mean, that is how much impact this show had on the American populace. Just the suits, you know, with the t-shirt and everything like that. I mean, these guys are driving Ferraris and shit. I mean, the colors of Miami, you know, every single episode had like a top 5 song on it. You know, it was like the first TV show to feature pop music, basically, you know, pop culture music in every single episode. Not just usually one song, usually 2 or 3, you know, Genesis, you know, some of the hair metal bands, Whitney Houston, all of them, you know, did songs. Not to mention the sheer amount of actors that are huge draws now that came out of that show, that were on that show. Fucking Bruce Willis, Tom Sizemore. Like, you just go down the list of people who were just starting out. So you get to see Bruce Willis pre-Moonlighting, which was really, really freaking crazy. You know, all this huge cavalcade of stars who went on to so much bigger and better things. And it's beautifully acted. The ending, it did kind of lose its way right around the end, right around the time Don Johnson got a mullet. But it got kind of silly, and it was definitely kind of wearing out its welcome. I think it probably went for about 1 season too long. I think 4 seasons probably would have been perfect. It ran for 5, but it's every time I want to get a little bit of nostalgia when it comes to television, dude. I can watch any episode of Miami Vice, and boom, I'm there. It's the fucking 1980s all over again. So by all means, check it out. Very underrated.
Good choice.
Thanks, man.
All right. On my number 3, I have, of course, one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, Seinfeld.
I knew this was coming. That's why I didn't pick it.
Had to be on the
list.
list.
I knew you would pick it, so I didn't pick it.
But I mean, every episode is a classic. I mean, you know, you can pick out one thing from pretty much every episode, and you know, you will know that episode, like Man Hands, the Bubble Boy, Marble Rye,
the shirt,
the Suit Nazi. I mean, the puffy shirt.
Yeah, the puffy shirt.
But
it's the show literally about nothing. It's just about people living life.
But I mean, I really don't think I have to say much about that. I mean, everybody knows about Seinfeld, but one of the greatest shows of all time, and Larry David was just a genius. Him and Jerry Seinfeld together.
Yeah, have you seen the thing that Jerry Seinfeld has framed in his house?
No, I
It's
haven't.
it's like the biggest fuck you to the rest of the world. It's awesome. It's the first piloted test review of the pilot for Seinfeld, where it was one of the lowest ratings that they'd
Oh
ever gotten
wow.
for any tested pilot, and he has it framed in his house. And it's the exact pilot that we saw, and for some reason the test audiences just raked it over the coals. But I mean, God, I mean, when that thing was at its crescendo, I mean, Jerry Seinfeld was the highest paid actor in the history of television. They were making like $1 million an episode for a 30-minute sitcom. I think, and I don't think that was surpassed until Friends, where they were making
Yeah.
like $2 million an episode, something like that. That was, yeah, when Seinfeld was on. I mean, it was a phenomenon. The I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and the guy still got it.
Yeah.
I saw him live. I'd say 2 or 3 months ago,
Hmm.
and his stand up is amazing. He went on for like an hour and a half, hour 45,
Wow.
and just killed. I mean, and he doesn't really work that dirty. I mean, there's some cursing in it, but he works pretty clean. I mean, to be able to laugh that much
Yeah,
on pretty clean material, I mean, you just don't see that much anymore.
it's tough.
Yeah.
We're a pretty jaded audience. So my personal, if you had to pick one for the funniest thing that you could remember about Seinfeld, I'm gonna pick one. We'll have you pick one. Mine would be
All
something
right.
that I actually considered doing, just to see if I could actually pull this off. It's the episode where Costanza basically hides under his desk for the entire workday. Like he brings a pillow and he sleeps under his desk, and no one notices he's even gone. And being, a guy who works in an office, I'm like, you know what? I wonder if that would actually work. That seems like a pretty plausible theory. And I don't know. I guess I was really able to relate to that one just because of the type of work that I do. I was like, that's actually kind of brilliant. So,
I like the episode where Cosmo just was like up at an office somewhere, and they're like, "Hey, come on, we're about to miss the meeting," and he goes to the meeting, and like everybody just assumes he works there, and as he's like, they're giving him projects and stuff to do, and then I think they eventually fire him. He's like, "Well, you can't fire me. I don't even work here." But I think that'd be funny to like go somewhere to work and
yeah,
not even actually work there.
I wouldn't be surprised if that would actually work. People are so easily duped. Okay, so, excuse me. My next one, and I hope this one isn't on your list, because I hate to double up here, but if it is on your list, rock on. I did not watch this one while it was originally on the air, but while it was on the air, I do remember this being kind of a cultural phenomenon. I'm not quite to the point of loss, but I mean, this probably of any show has the most loyal fan base. I mean, I would say even above Seinfeld, as far as just the rabid, just loyalness of the fan base, man. I mean, these fans are numero uno. A whole convention is based around this. And that would be Joss Whedon's first stab at television, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's I basically just blasted through the sets as they came out on DVD. I was a very late entry to that. I do believe I started watching them as the show was still running. It was probably into season 5 or season 6 when I started watching season 1. And it's all on Netflix, guys. If you want to watch it, I highly recommend it. It really still holds up even today, man. I mean, that's the first television show that I remember watching that really grabbed at my heartstrings, man. I mean, it just really showed how great and brilliant of a writer Joss Whedon is, and how well he can write women. I mean, it's just of any dude who's ever written women, this dude just gets it. I mean, he's all about female empowerment. Obviously, if you look at his shows and stuff, and it's just such an interesting universe, that he created with slayers and demons and vampires with souls and all this other shit. You never knew what was going to happen. Werewolves, all kinds of things, and it's just at the same time it's an incredibly human show because it starts out it's just about a 16-year-old girl in high school. It's just her and her friends having to deal with living on a fucking hellmouth, where anything and everything can crawl out of this thing and threaten the freaking city, town, or even the planet. That one, in my opinion, did have a very satisfying ending because it made perfect sense to me that the first episode of the show is Welcome to the Hellmouth, meaning, welcome to the shit, man. We're kicking into the deep end, no swimming lessons. And at the end of the show, spoiler alerts, they close the Hellmouth. Like, that's the whole thing, is they go into the Hellmouth to fight, the evil that's inside of it and basically kill it. But it does leave it open at the end. You know, there's word of another Hellmouth opening, you know, in a different side of the country and stuff like that. And this actually has lived on in comic book form, as approved by Joss Whedon. They've done season 8, season 9, season 10, which I thought was really cool. And it's actually written by some of the people who actually wrote the show. So I couldn't talk about a completed show without talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, man. It's just, for me, man, I'm always going to have a soft spot for that. There's so many episodes that just, they're tear jerkers because it's so heartbreaking to see what these people have to contend with.
Well, I kind of went in a different direction for my number 2, and I picked Breaking Bad.
Nice.
I thought that was a worthy number 2. You know, I guess the very first time I watched season 1, my dad and I watched it together. Mm-hmm. And we watched the first season and we're like, oh, you know, this is okay. But the show really transforms from the first season. And you see the progression of Walter White from a chemistry teacher in high school to a drug kingpin. And, you know, the show goes from kind of like a dark comedy to really just this dark show about drugs. And some of the best acting you will ever see on TV. Still one of the grittiest shows I think I've ever seen on cable TV. But a great show. If you haven't seen it, I guarantee you'll love it. Just check it out. It's a great show. Bryan Cranston just knocked it out of the park with this. And if you remember correctly, a lot of the actors, actually, Bryan Cranston was a dentist on Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. The wife, I forget her name, actually played one of Jerry Seinfeld's love interest in an episode. So, I mean, all these people from Breaking Bad actually had original, you know, appearances in Seinfeld. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And Bryan Cranston also voiced one of the supervillains on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Nice.
Most people don't know that. You can't really tell that it's him, but it is actually him. And one of the characters actually on Power Rangers, Billy, his last name is named after Bryan Cranston. His name's Billy Cranston. And Bryan Cranston has admitted in public, he's like, that's not a coincidence. That was one of the writers basically just naming him after me. So, awesome. Okay, so not my number 1, but just in no particular order. I could not mention this without this show. One of the best first seasons ever. One of the best pilots ever. One of the most well-written shows in history. That would be Prison Break. I mean, just the whole concept of an entire season based around guys basically staging breaking out of a maximum security prison is fucking brilliant. I mean, there's no two ways about that. It's, you know, Link, you know, this one guy basically gets wrongly accused of murder, gets sent to a maximum security prison, and his brother Michael, who happens to be this brilliant engineer and architect, and since they don't have the same last name, no one knows that they're actually related, even though they are blood related, basically gets himself arrested to get himself sent to prison, but has the wherewithal to have the designs of the prison tattooed on his body using like hieroglyphs basically so that no one else can spot it. So he basically goes in there with a specific purpose of trying to break him out. And just the twists and turns and just being able to see Michael, you know, think on his feet and improvise. Like, this guy is like fucking Batman. Like, he's always 5 steps ahead of you. You know, he's always got a plan. He always has a strategy. And it was so well conveyed in season 2, since season 1 basically ends with them breaking out of the prison. In season 2, they're on the run. When it's him and William Fichtner going head to head, and he's got Fichtner, who's the guy, he's the FBI agent or whatever that's tracking him and trying to put him back in jail, and he's got him locked up in front of him in a cell, and he says to William Fichtner, he's like, "It doesn't matter what you throw at me, I will beat you every single time." And he just says it with this fucking nail-driven, razor-sharp delivery where you just absolutely believe it. Like, dude, you cannot beat this guy. Like, he is always going to be ahead of you. He's always going to have a plan. He's always going to have an exit strategy. And just the acting from everyone involved on the show, man, was just so freaking top notch, man. Like the characters in the prison, just the criminals that they have to consort with, to get in on the gang, basically to be part of the escape plan. Just the twists and turns and everything, just the sense of danger when they're trying to escape. And every time it would cut to commercial, it had like the most epic bumper on cutting to commercial, where like somebody would be like, whew, and then it'd be like, doon, 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 like. I know it sounds cheesy as shit the way I do it, but you're like, holy shit, like every commercial's a cliffhanger. So I'm pretty sure it's still on Netflix, because that's the way that I watched it. I just blasted through it, I think, inside of a week and a half. If you have not seen Prison Break, guys, seriously, you are missing landmark television, and I heard recently they're going to bring it back for one more season. The two actors who play Michael and Link are actually on Arrow and Flash. But they're playing the bad guys. Michael plays Captain Cold, and the guy who plays Link plays, it's like Inferno or something like that. They're basically like Fire and Ice type guy. They're very different characters on this show. Don't get me wrong, because they're criminals. They're not the good guys, and the dynamic that they have. But literally, when they finish up the thing that they're doing for CW, I'm totally brain farting right now. Legends of Tomorrow. When they finish that, according to the actors, they are literally getting on a plane the next day to head off and do Prison Break. So if you like the dynamic that these two guys have, definitely watch Legends of Tomorrow, and Prison Break, the new season, apparently will be coming out next year. I'm so stoked for that, although I'm not going to ruin the ending for you guys, but I don't know how they're going to do that, because one of them is fucking dead at the end of the show, very clearly dead. So but dude, it's Prison Break, anything can happen. There's always some type of MacGuffin or something they can come up with. So definitely a worthy entry on my list. Check out Prison Break.
I'll have to check that out. I've never seen that before.
Oh dude, the first season, you're gonna be like, it can't get better than this. It just can't. It's just, you were just like, oh, that was good. So yeah, check it out.
But isn't that the best way to watch shows, where you can sit there and binge watch it? I don't have to.
I will fucking challenge you to watch only one episode of Prison Break. I will guarantee you that you cannot watch one. You're gonna watch a minimum of 3. So, anyways, what's your numero uno, buddy? Hit me.
All right, here we go. The number one I have is probably not a surprise. It's at a lot of number ones for TV lists out there, but this is my personal favorite. I usually end up watching this about once a year, and that is The Sopranos.
Nice. Good choice.
James Gandolfini is an amazing actor, probably one of the best actors of our time. The way he shows emotion in this, it's so visceral. Just the fury he shows in the show. And the way he balances his family life, the family life, of the mob, and it's really a great show. Yeah, it's started a lot of acting careers on that show, and a lot of the actors on the show were actually from older mob movies and stuff like that. So I thought that was neat how they kind of borrowed from like Goodfellas and other mob shows like that. But that was another show that had a very controversial ending, and I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but I thought it was brilliant. I was one of the people that actually liked the ending of that show. So that is my number one, guys. I hope you enjoyed this new top 5 list. I kind of like this addition to the show.
I do.
And maybe we don't do it every week, but we'll try and do a top 5. Yeah,
I have another very quick personal story actually about Sopranos, and it's almost in the exact same context as my last one. So again, working at a cable company, you kind of meet people like this. Big Pussy actually came into the office one time. Vincent Pastore, I think, is the actor's name. All right, first, he's a big dude. Like I'm not a small guy, but I was like, holy shit, like you really are Big Pussy. Okay, so the funniest thing happened. So guys, I was working at a call center for one of the big cable companies out there. I won't say which, but it's definitely one of the ones you've heard of. And he came in, it was, I think Sopranos was in season 2, so it was all the buzz and everything, and he was coming around just meeting everybody and everything. And he actually got on the phone with the person who was sitting, I think, 2 seats down from me, because they wanted to cancel HBO. He personally got on the phone and he talked them back into keeping it. And they were like, well, who are you? He's like, well, I'm Big Pussy. And they're like, excuse me? He's like, Big Pussy. I'm on Sopranos. And pardon my incredibly bad Big Pussy accent, but he actually talked them back into it. He's like, well, why do you want to cancel? It's a good show. You should keep it. And he actually talked them back into it. I was like, this is before like cell phone footage was like a thing. Like you were lucky to have one with a picture. This would have been like YouTube gold. Like seriously, if I had a freaking phone back then, I would be making like thousands of dollars a month. This would be like a billion hit video. And it was so amazing just to see like this dude like use his acting skills basically to help his bottom line, which I thought was absolutely amazing. So yes, this was a really great segment, man. Hopefully we can come up with more top fives in the future.
As another little aside to The Sopranos, I know I was reading an article or either watching some on TV that a lot of the people that were actually monitoring like actual mobsters in the FBI,
right?
Like I guess they had phone taps and stuff, and they said, it was always fun to go into work on Monday after The Sopranos aired because they would all be like talking about The Sopranos that they had watched the night before.
Nice.
And they would always be like, man, how do they know that's how it is? I mean, like, so apparently it was very real to close to the real thing, because these mobsters in real life were like, saying how realistic that show, the show was, and they all watched it and all that. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Awesome. So we're gonna get into some movies and televisio.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think that warmed us up properly for the movie and TV news.
I'm ready, man. Let's do this. I'm boogieing.
You want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, man. All right. So Hateful Eight trailer this week. Wow. Is it the eighth film from Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah.
Okay. So no. Well. Oh, wow.
I think
it's eight.
Let me look.
Which
I believe that was in the actual intro of the.
I think it was, and it would make sense, that we're calling this Hateful Eight. How appropriate, but whatever it may be. So that was released this week. It seems Tarantino's got the Western bug, following up Django Unchained with another Western. But excuse me, this one is definitely a very big departure from Django Unchained. This is post Civil War. Basically, it's a kind of what I like to call a claustrophobic story, where you've got a bunch of badasses in the Old West, like a bunch of bounty hunters, more or less, holed up in this one cabin in the middle of a snowstorm. And one of them, played by Kurt Russell, apparently has this prize bounty, and he always brings his people in alive because obviously they're worth more, so they call him the Hangman, because he brings his people in to hang. So you got Sam Jackson, Tim Roth. I mean, you have all these staples of the Quentin Tarantino universe kind of coming together for what looks to be a very solid entry in his film career, where I guess they're just trying to survive the night and get through it, and survive the snowstorm rather, so that they can make their escape. And obviously, all the other bounty hunters want this girl dead, and they want to be able to claim the bounty. And I guess Kurt Russell was pretty much the only thing standing between A and B right there. But what did you think of the trailer, dude?
I thought it was really good. It's got some great actors in it. Kurt Russell, of course, is one of my favorites. You got Samuel L. Jackson, Tim Roth. I mean, I could just go on and on. Michael Madsen, finally coming back and doing something. I've actually gotten to meet Michael Madsen before. A hell of a nice guy. Just a really cool guy. I got him to sign my Kill Bill poster.
Nice.
So that was cool. But, real down to earth. But I think this is going to be a great movie. This was the movie that was leaked online.
Yep.
The script was. And Quentin Tarantino actually, said he wasn't going to make it. But
right.
I guess he decided that it was so good that he had to make it. So I'm excited. And one thing that was really cool was they're actually filming this in like a special, I don't know, I guess it's 70 millimeter, and apparently it looks so good that like when Quentin Tarantino was seeing like the first couple of shots of the movie, he was so giddy. He was just like giggling like a little schoolgirl because it looks so great. So this is a guy that loves what he does
Yeah.
and puts a lot of passion into his work, and I think it's going to be great. I'm a big fan of Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, I think this is all shot on actual film stock. It's shot. It basically boasts in the trailer that it's shot on 70 millimeter Panavision, which virtually no one uses anymore. You know, I mean, we live in the world where everything's digital. No one uses film stock anymore, and it's all high def, and or 3D. And this dude's pretty much shooting in the same shit that they shot most of the big 70s westerns, and a lot of the spaghetti westerns were shot in 70 millimeters. So I think it's cool that he's keeping that fire burning, that kind of vintage feel of films. You know, they all feel really authentic. And dude, it's a QT film. I mean, it's like, you know that every single person in this movie is going to be like infinitely more interesting than the best action movie character. Like, even the small characters have depth. Like, that's just the way he rolls. Everyone's really talky, everyone's got a story, and all their stories are really incredibly personal and honest. You know, it just seems to be the way he does things. He's one of the great filmmakers of our time. You know, it'll be definitely a very sad thing, you know, when he passes, and doesn't make films anymore, because he's the type of guy that's just irreplaceable.
Agree.
So what's next, man? Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the agenda, guys, and my boom just got lowered. Yeah. Fucking shit. I mean, I should be happy about this because they'd be like, "I told you," but that's okay.
Is this the Fantastic Four news?
Yeah.
All right, so we actually got more reports this week about Fantastic Four and kind of what was going on set. And it just seems to be a conglomeration of shit. The guy, from all reports, Josh Trank, was not ready to direct a big movie.
Ew.
His last movie was, I think, a budget of like 12 million or something like that, or maybe less, or maybe a little bit more. But he wasn't ready. They gave him this huge budgeted movie. He obviously freaked out. He had some personal problems going on.
Yeah.
I saw where he did like $100,000 damage to this person's house in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I mean, just all kinds of other things. He had kind of had some arguments with the movie studio. He built like a tent around his viewing footage of the movie, what was going on. He didn't really accept input in the film. And the biggest thing, you know, that kind of, to me, says that he was kind of to blame for, you know, this movie, was he sent out a email to everybody like a couple of days before the movie released, and you know, said how it was an amazing comic book movie and how it was better than pretty much any other comic book movie out there. So, you know, he can't blame the studio as much as he wanted to. Maybe they had a hand in this problem by, you know, giving it to him, but
Right.
He obviously thought he had gold on his hands, you know, after he got done with it, and it definitely didn't turn out to be as good as he thought it did. And you know, I was reading where they were talking to some people that actually worked on set, and they said, you know, if they really believed in this guy, they originally thought kind of like he was going to be like the next J.J. Abrams or whatever. But they said, you know, you don't take somebody from like a $12 million budget to like 100 million, or I think it was like 150 for this movie, or 140.
Right.
You know, you don't take them that big of a jump up. You give them something, kind of groom them, get them prepared for, and you know, obviously they kind of just, it was something that they threw together. I was also reading because they didn't want to lose the rights to Fantastic Four.
Right.
They had to rush it out, and when you rush stuff, you're not going to get a good product. You know, this is something that they should have been seeing. They should have had it on their calendar. Like, look, we need to start getting ready to do something with Fantastic Four. We're going to lose the rights. That's not something that, like, oh shit, you know, we got to start with it by next month, or
Right.
we're going to lose the rights or whatever. So it just seems to be a clusterfuck all around.
Oh no, I
one.
agree. I'm hoping that this is the final nail in the coffin where 20th Century Fox can let this go. I mean, I think they've lost so much fucking money on this thing that it's unsavable. I mean, even with DVD and Blu-ray sales, they're not going to make their money back. They're so far in the damn red on this thing that I'm hoping that this can be the last straw where they can be like, okay, we obviously cannot make this profitable. it's time to sell this back to Marvel. I mean, sell it back to Marvel and maybe recoup some of your costs. 'Cause
Right.
I know Marvel's got the money, by themselves. Even if they didn't, they got Disney behind them, so they got the cash to say like, all right, we'll give you like $500 million for the rights back. And when you know that when they bring it back in house at Marvel, that A, it'll be done right, and B, you can connect it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is
Right.
just fucking win-win right there, man. We could see the Avengers and the Fantastic Four in the same movie. So I really hope that is the one blessing in disguise of this whole thing, that the 20th Century Fox's career with the Fantastic Four hopefully is over with, that they realize that they cannot make a good one, they don't know what they're doing because they don't have Marvel behind them, and that they just let it fucking go.
Right.
So,
Well, I've got kind of a side here that
aside, wow, we got a lot of side dishes. Holy shit.
yeah, I kind of saw this last minute. Didn't have time to add it to the agenda, but I saw where Sony has actually set the dates for like 16 films, and your favorite, The Ghostbusters, is actually set for July 15th of next year.
Oh, my favorite. Wow.
Yeah,
That was
and
nice
then
of I know what I'm going to be doing that day. Not fucking seeing that movie.
right. And I saw they're actually remaking Jumanji for some reason. I don't know a lot of people that were calling for a remake of that. That comes out on Christmas of next year. And they've actually got a placeholder for The Dark Tower, which a lot of people have said this is a great series of books from Stephen
Yes.
King, but I haven't read them, so I'm interested to see that, see what The Dark Tower is all about.
Awesome.
Also, Resident Evil 6. And I liked the first couple movies in that series, but it's gotten so convoluted toward the last few in that whole series. So I think now they're just basically making those so she has a job. In case y'all didn't know, the director is actually married to, what's her name? I can't
Noah
think of it.
Jovovich.
Yeah, Jovovich. Yep. And
This is
so he's
supposed to
married
be-
to her. So I think
it's the last one this time. They've said that.
Is
Like,
it?
6
Okay.
is the end. So, I mean, she's already in her 40s, man. She's a mom and stuff like that. I mean, they can't do this forever. So it's, it's cool that they're gonna quit and just say like, yeah, this is it. So,
But yeah, I mean that I enjoyed maybe the first four of those or whatever, but I think it's just getting time now for to end it.
getting a little silly.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody that was asking for this, but we're getting Bad Boys 3
What
on.
the fuck?
Yeah, this is February of 2017, so they're going to be pretty old by the time. And I'm assuming that this is Will Smith and Martin Lawrence that are going to
it will be.
reprise their roles. But the big thing that came out of all this news was they're actually making an Uncharted movie, and they set it for June 30th for 2017. So I'm really excited about that. Uncharted is one of my favorite game series out there. I don't know who they're going to get to actually play Nathan Drake, but I think Nathan Fillion would be a really good choice for that. He's kind of a smart ass, and I mean I think he could play that pretty well. But I'd be interested in see who they cast for Nathan Drake, and then just in case one wasn't enough, we're getting Bad Boys 4 on 7/3 of
Wow.
2019. So,
I
man,
think Will Smith
Four-
has realized that he can't make movies on his own. That when he goes out and tries to be creative, that he bombs. So he's like, well, let me go back to the fucking well here. Let me go back to my moneymaker. But he still didn't have the wherewithal to sign on to the second Independence Day movie. It's like, dude, no.
right?
Dumb move. So, no, yeah. So, I mean, with the exception of the Dark Tower thing, I guess that I would be really excited about that, because that has been in development hell for like the better part of a decade. Ron Howard and Brian Grazer were involved at one point. Stephen King himself was involved. They were going to do a movie, then they were going to do a TV show, then they were going to do a movie and a TV show and have them interconnect. And I was like, this is going to be awesome, because the Dark Tower is basically Stephen King's only real saga. that he's done. He doesn't do sequels, with the exception of The Shining, which he recently put out Doctor Sleep. The Dark Tower is really the only series of books that are episodic. Normally his books are basically just one story and it's self-contained and that's the end of it. But the Dark Tower is like his Star Wars, where it's this huge long saga about this gunslinger named Roland. And for any of you out there, comic book fans out there, who haven't checked out the comic book series for it, I highly recommend it. I think it's either Jay Choi or Jay Lee does the artwork. The story is written by Stephen King and his son. Came together to do it, and it's a prequel to the book series. So you get to see Roland when he's young. He's like 20 or 21 years old, and he just joins the Gunslingers. He's just like the fucking hotshot joining the squad. So if you haven't checked those out, man, it's an incredible run of comic books. By all means, do so.
Okay. By any chance, did you see I guess it was Entertainment Weekly had a article on Star Wars. I guess it was featured on the cover this week. Did you by any chance read that article?
I did.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. So we got, I think the main thing that I got from this article was mainly, we got some updated pictures, some still frames. You get clear shots of the heroes and the villains. Another thing that leaked this week is apparently a clear shot of Luke Skywalker in his robes and stuff, where he basically looks like Obi-Wan from the first movie. Like, he's got the robes and the beard and everything like that, which kind of makes sense because he'd be about the same age as Obi-Wan was in the first. So he's kind of taking over the role of the Elder Jedi, since I guess at one point he was like the last of his kind. He's the only Jedi left in the universe. But the main thing that I got from this was excitement. I was really stoked just to read the details about this, what's actually going on the set, the bigger picture, the tidbit with Harrison Ford, what actually happened when... I thought, the way I originally heard this, when, his injury that he got on the set, I thought the door closed on his leg, but apparently the door fucking fell on him. Mm-hmm. Like, it came off the hinges and fell on him. And J.J. Abrams actually ran in to try and help him, being the sport that he is, and broke one of his vertebrae trying to pick this door up. So apparently it's so heavy he had to have surgery, because he literally broke his back trying to get this thing off the ground. But, it's all good. Everybody's back. Everybody's healthy. Harrison Ford was out for a lot less time than anyone thought he would be, and his physicality did not get reduced to any degree. He was back being Harrison Ford and being the indestructible old man that he is, where he's running around throwing haymakers, falling on his ass.
Wrecking planes on golf courses.
Crashing shit on the golf courses. And he's just like, you can't kill Harrison Ford, apparently, man. He's like fucking immortal or something. He's like secretly the Highlander. But right. I thought the article was really cool. I'm like, if I had any doubts that this thing was on the straight and narrow before, I wouldn't have had any afterwards. Like, it was basically like, the article basically said, guys, this is where Star Wars needs to be right now. It's in good hands. They know what they're doing. This is going to be a fucking awesome movie. But what did you get from it?
Well, I saw that. I've been real careful to kind of ration myself on this, because this is one of the movies that people will actually mine information about it until the point where they actually ruin the movie.
Right.
So, guys, when you're looking up stuff about this, like, if you don't want the movie ruined for you, you really need to be careful what you're clicking on and all that. But I basically just read a little bit about the main bad guy. His name's like Kylo Ren, and apparently he's like obsessed with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And he manufactured his own lightsaber, which is why it's kind of that Claymore style with the hilts on it. So I thought that was interesting, but I'm really trying to limit myself on the details. I want to be surprised. I hate, when there's so much information about a movie that it ruins the plot and all that. I want to be, come in at pretty much an open book, so I'm not judging it before I go in. So, I kind of limited what I read on it. I just, saw it, and I thought that'd be something that our listeners would probably like to talk about a little bit.
Definitely. Absolutely. So what else is new, dude?
Well, I don't know if you saw this or not this week, but on HBO there was actually a trailer release for Westworld,
I did.
and it looks amazing.
Yeah, man.
That's all I can say about it. I mean, it just looked awesome. It looks trippy as hell. And for those of you who don't know about Westworld, is it was actually a movie in 1973 that was written and directed by Michael Crichton.
Yep.
And basically, it's a huge adult amusement park. In the original movie, it was split into three different worlds. There was Westworld, which was kind of like a western that people could go into and kind of live out their western fantasy. There was Roman world and I believe medieval world.
Yep.
And so, anyways, these people would go to the theme park, and the park was actually nothing but like animatronic people.
Yep.
So
androids, basically.
Right. And anyways, like, you know, you could kind of live out your fantasy in the theme park, but when it follows the story of these two guys, and they go in, and actually the androids start malfunctioning.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they turn on all the workers at the park and kill them.
Yep.
And the guys kind of fall asleep one night in a bar, and a gunslinger comes in and challenges them to a duel, and the gunslinger actually kills one of them, and the rest of the movie is spent like this guy like running away from this gunslinger android. And a really unique idea for a movie, and I think it's going to be great, like updated with today's technology and all that, and could be like really creepy. So I can't believe they're doing it. I had no idea this was actually in the works. So
I heard about this.
It was a nice, surprise this week for me.
I think they're doing it right and doing it as a television show as opposed to a movie. I think if you did it as a movie, it'd be way too predictable. You wouldn't have nearly enough time to flesh out story and characters and everything, because you know that like the first half of the season is going to just be like people going to the park, and it's going to be the nuts and bolts of the daily life, and then halfway through it, shit's going to go south. Like, the androids are basically going to revolt, and everyone's going to be scrambling to try and figure out what the hell's going on. It's really scary when you think about it, because you're in the Old West, and all the androids are basically armed. So,
Right.
They have no compunction at all with taking a human life. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to this as well.
And I believe it's set for beginning of next year, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, sir.
And this week I actually watched the finale of True Detective, and I will say that the second half of the season definitely gave redemption for this entire season of True Detective. So those of you who watch it, like I was saying last week, and it started off slow, definitely keep watching it. It picks up, and the last episode is an hour and a half of a gritty finale. I mean, it was really good. I was pretty impressed with this season, especially how it began, and it just being so slow, just the progression it picked up. And I know you had said last week, you were tired of Vince Vaughn in that same role that he always plays, and this is definitely a fresh take for Vince Vaughn, and a great acting from him this season.
I have a little bit of TV news that actually isn't on the agenda. I just recalled this. I'd mentioned recently, guys, previous podcasts, that I'm big into Arrow and Flash. I think the CW and the WB basically are handling comic book television shows in a way that Marvel, with the exception of Daredevil, really needs to pay attention to. These guys are really doing this shit right. And for those of you who didn't catch it, there was a show on NBC, I believe, called Constantine, which is based on the Hellblazer comic. Forget about that incredibly mediocre Keanu Reeves movie, which was not even close to the source material. I mean, he did an okay job. It was an okay movie. They just shouldn't have called it Constantine. He doesn't look anything like it. First of all, Constantine is blonde and he's fucking British. Then we have Keanu Reeves, who's like Hawaiian and dark-haired and sounds American. Not even close. So the guy that they got, Matt something or other, they got it. First of all, he's actually British. Second of all, he's actually blonde. And third of all, he fucking kills it as Constantine. This guy is so good at playing this role that he's just right on the money, because he's such an anti-hero. Like, this guy's into some seriously dark shit, like conjuring demons, you know, dealing with witches and shit. I mean, it's like if you took a DC comic book show and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and put them together, you'd have Constantine. It's really awesome just to see this kind of weirdly supernatural kind of take on a comic book. And I'd heard, since Constantine did not get renewed, unfortunately, they tried and tried and tried, and you know, Netflix was thinking about picking it up, and I was like, oh god, there's hope, and they didn't get renewed for season 2. But I do remember, I think it was Andrew Krisenberg, who's one of the producers, one of the head honchos behind The Flash and Arrow and the upcoming Supergirl, who was like, you know what, he actually tweeted, I think it's Matt Ryan is the guy's name, he's like, dude, if you ever want to play Constantine on our show, consider this an invitation. And he is making good on his word. Constantine, as played by Matt Ryan, will appear on season 4 of Arrow this fall. Bravo, CW. I'm like at a loss for words right now and how fucking awesome these guys are. I mean, this is like, they're like fans. Like, it's like, it doesn't feel like the grown-ups are steering the ship right now. It feels like the kids have taken over, because they're doing everything that the fans of this shit would do. And I think it's so awesome that they're doing that they're going to be like, you know, this is a completely different show, a completely different network, but it's a DC character, and we're running the show over here. Let's bring him in. That is just so incredible, man, that they've just got this badass television universe. So, all the guys at CW and WB, man, you guys are doing an awesome job. My girlfriend is now obsessed with Arrow. I turned her onto it on Netflix, man, and she is fucking blasting through it to try and catch up, because season 4, I think, starts in October. And she's got 3 seasons to get through. And she's like, I'm going to get through it in a day. I'm like, sweetie, you realize that that's physically impossible, right? Like, there's not enough hours in the day. Like, even there's 22 episodes per season. There's 3 seasons. So, yeah, you got your work cut out for you. But anyways, she's loving it. She loves the show. She doesn't know anything about the comic book, doesn't know anything about the character. But take it from her. She's like, this is a really cool show. It's really well done. It's action-packed. Every story is awesome. It's not this stupid, like, who's the terrorist of the week crap. It's episodic, but each episode could be a standalone. Like, there is a big picture, but each one, they just keep the pacing, moment to moment. So if you haven't checked out Arrow, guys, I know I plugged this a lot. I know some of you are just like, Jimbo, shut the fuck up about Arrow. You're sucking his dick too hard. Whatever. It's a fucking awesome show. You need to watch it. Seriously, watch it. Please. So I can keep talking about it. So anyways, what's next?
I can't believe you didn't like the Keanu Reeves Constantine.
It's not that I didn't like it. Like, was it a bad movie? No, it wasn't a bad movie. It's just,
I just liked how dark it was.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Like, it did have its moments, like in the beginning, like, hey asshole, it's John Constantine. Dude, he did what he could with it. But dude, being as a guy who grew up reading the Hellblazer comic, I was like, that's not Constantine.
Well, the one thing I will say that I did not like at the movie showed, I guess, and I guess the movie kind of mirrored a story in the comics or whatever. And when he makes this deal, well, basically he tries to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And he warns the devil that, like, his son is trying to, I guess, come to Earth or whatever and take over Earth or whatever. But basically the devil takes his cancer away because Constantine redeemed himself, right, and was actually going to go to heaven. So he took the cancer out of his body and, like, healed him to where it would basically give him enough time to fuck up again to where he was going to go back to hell.
Right.
Well, at the end of the movie, he pulls out, like, I guess a piece of gum instead of smoking, but, like, in the comics, he pulls out a pack of cigarettes and starts smoking again.
Right.
You know, after he got all the cancer taken away from his lungs. You know, you would think he would learn, but no, man, he's just set in his ways, and he starts smoking again. And I hate that they dumbed it down in the movie where he chewed a piece of gum.
Right.
I thought that kind of killed the persona of Constantine a little bit. That was just kind of a little.
No, I thought the same thing, and that was a big kind of controversy when they were talking about doing this show, because there's so many laws put into place that actually stops network television from main characters smoking, and the producers were pushing for it, and they were just like, look, you know, we'll play it down a little bit, but we can't take this out. And eventually the studio won. They're just like, we can't do it, you know, there's just too much legal shit in front of us to be able to make this pass. And I'm like, come on, right, come on. This is why you want to do shit on Netflix, because they don't fucking care. They can be like,
Right.
fuck you, FCC, we're going to do what we want. So, yeah. The FCC needs to grow up a little bit, I think.
I know we've talked about this maybe in our first couple podcasts, but
What's up?
I finally got a chance to watch Maggie this week with Arnold.
I haven't seen it yet.
And I must say I was kind of disappointed with it. It to me it was kind of a sad story about a father whose daughter basically is infected and she's like kind of slowly turning, and how he deals with it. But to me it was just real slow, and I don't want to give away what all happens in the movie, but it was slow, and I'd probably give it maybe like a C minus or D. It was just one of those movies that
Ouch.
I have to judge a movie by like, would I watch it again? Because if I watch it once and I'm done with it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad movie. But to me, like, great movies are judged on how many times you can sit there and watch them. Where you
Right.
can enjoy that same experience over and over again. I just once, and I was, and I was struggling to get to the end of the movie. I was falling asleep. I mean, it was very slow, so
That's bad.
not that great of a movie. So I'd definitely give it a lower score. So I'm gonna say C minus to D on that.
Nice. Well, I see an item on our agenda here that I'm pretty stoked to talk about, mainly because both Tyler and I can say we told you that Capcom was going to step in on this. Capcom is doing Resident Evil 2 remake, man. They're doing, and not just an HD polish, they're rebuilding it from the ground up, which I think is awesome. Like, that gave me a little sliver of hope that maybe Capcom can be saved, because they haven't been doing a lot of things right as of late. They Konami, and a lot of the other Sega, a lot of the other companies have been doing a lot of shit wrong as of late. But this, they, I mean, I thought it was nice that they actually asked the fans, like, is this, something you would want? Is this something you would play? What do you want to see? It to me as a fan, I was just like, smacking my forehead like a dozen times. Like, do you really even have to fucking ask? Like, if we're gonna play this, like, of course we're gonna play it. Make the fucking game already. Come on. You guys have, I'm sure you guys can read the news and see that, the fan-made remake of this is getting all this buzz and people want to play it. Jump in on it. But at the same time, as far as I know, they are not stopping that guy from making the HD remake. Viewers, readers, no, this isn't a newspaper. Viewers, listeners, by all means correct me if I'm wrong, but last I heard, there's no legal blockade or anything in front of this guy. They're just letting him do it. It's just, instead of just taking the old game and putting a fresh coat of paint on it, they're building it from the ground up. Brand new engine, graphics, voice acting, all that other stuff. They're just gonna do, I guess, what they did with the first Resident Evil and just rebuild it from the ground up, but keep the same story, which I think is awesome. I've said many times, Resident Evil 2 is my favorite in the series, and I would buy that in a fucking heartbeat. I really would. I'd love to play through both stories, man. I'd love almost if, I'll tell you what, man. Shit, I should have chimed in on this when they asked what you want. Here would be my idea, my suggestion to Capcom for what they could do for this remake to make it better. Okay. You could do each story standalone, just like you did in the original, meaning you play Leon or you play Claire by themselves, or you have an option to bring them both into the same story for co-op. Like, give the player the choice. Like, if you want that isolated experience, you can do that, but give them an option. Be like, have like the big story where you can pick story A or story B, but have the other person included and do co-op. It's win-win
cool.
then. Like the co-op people like me are satisfied, and the Resident Evil diehards are satisfied. I can't imagine that would take that much more coding to do that. So just add the option. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I like that.
I'm stoked, man. We're probably not going to see this game for like 2 years. So
Yeah.
if they're just now starting it, and I understand they're working on it right now, it's going to take a while to do this, to get everything polished out, and because that they're not going to want this thing to be buggy, man. Like this needs to come out perfect. It needs to come out ready to rock right out of the gate. And for the time being, we've got the fan-made remake to tie us over, so it's all good, brother.
Yeah, and I think this could be, if they do it right, this could be something that kind of re-energizes Capcom, and hopefully starts the return of Capcom, because they've kind of been down as of late, but
Yeah.
they're doing some cool stuff as of late with the um, Mega Man pack that they've announced.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's actually getting a physical release or if it's just digital, but I know it's a bundle where you get basically Mega Man 1 through 6, is it? Or do you get the Legends with that too? I'm not sure.
I don't know
I'll have
why
to
they
look
wouldn't
into that.
include 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Because they're all, 7, 8, and 9 are it's 8 bit.
What would
It's
be
programmed
cool
the
if they
same way.
do if they would do 7, 8, 9, and then do the X series maybe with
Yeah.
that too. And I don't know if they would include Legends too, but shit, if you did all that in one bundle,
Yeah.
I mean that'd be up there with like rare replay type
Oh, I agree. I'd go with
bundle.
replay.
I mean I'd pay full price for that. I'd pay 60, $70 for that if
Sure.
it included all the games in the series.
One stop shopping, man.
Right.
I'm down with that. So what's
Well,
next?
I saw this week that apparently it's not very fun working for Konami.
Oh shit, I saw this too. Holy crap. No wonder
Yeah.
things are going bad there.
Apparently a bad working environment. So not only are they not producing games anybody wants to play now, apparently people don't really want to work there anymore. They basically have Big Brother watching them all the time
That's an
at work.
understatement.
They have cameras everywhere, even the break room. I think if they like take too long of a break, they're like shamed publicly at work about that. And
If you don't
I
watch the
know, like,
meetings, you get in trouble. If you go outside for too long, you get in trouble. Like it's like, what the
and I think
fuck?
you've got to like apply to even have access to the internet while you're
Yeah.
working there. Like you have to have a reason to use the internet. And I mean, it just sounds like pure hell to work at Konami.
This sounds like some Third Reich shit. I mean, it's like they
Yeah.
sound like the fucking Gestapo. I mean, where everything you do is policed. You need to have an excuse for the most mundane of tasks. I mean, dude, having to get permission to use the internet, God, it's only the world's greatest fucking resource. I mean, for crying out loud, that's like needing permission to have air. I mean, it's really like they work in an
I even
IT job.
I even saw where they have like when they check out laptops that they have like an internal security team or whatever. And while they're using like the laptops, supposed to be for work, they'll randomly take screenshots of whatever's on your computer. And
Jesus
a lot of
Christ.
people have like gotten in trouble for like, stuff that they're on when they're supposed to be working on something. But I mean, everybody does it at work. If you
Of
have
course.
access to the internet at your work, you're going to play around, on the internet. But this is a little bit much. I mean, Konami really has gone down the shitter here lately
I
in the
agree.
news, and it's kind of sad to see the downward spiral that they've entered here, here of late. So
Completely agree.
another knock to Konami.
Yeah, God, I don't know if they can be saved, dude. I almost want them to go under, and I want Nintendo to buy them, just
Yeah,
because you get Hudson Soft and everything as part of the deal. Then we could see like a Nintendo Bomberman game. Oh, dude, you talk about like the one company that I trust to get it right, other than Hudson Soft. I mean, we just have like Bomberman and fucking like Super Smash Brothers. Oh, for me, that would be like a dream come true. So, oh god, it's like I don't think Konami. I think they are so Japanese of a company that they don't realize that everyone in the United States is like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" Like, do you
right.
not realize how much disposable income we have, and we will pay you to help us relive our childhood. We will pay you for Castlevania. We'll pay you for Bomberman. We'll pay you for all these fucking games. Just give them to us. Like we're doing your fucking market research for you. We're telling you what we want. Let
Right.
us pay you. And it's just so outraging to see a company that's that fucking bent. Oh, fanboy rant. Excuse me, folks. Fuck.
Well, you were speaking about Nintendo. Did you see that Nintendo fired one of their Treehouse employees this week for
For
appearing
appearing
on
on
a
a
podcast?
podcast. Yes, I
Yeah.
was like, did he say something? I didn't hear what he actually said. Did he say something that off color?
Yeah. well, not off color, but a lot of these people that work at the Nintendo, have the non-disclosure agreements,
Uh-huh.
and he did talk about some like insider information. Like he basically said that Nintendo lost money on Xenoblade, and
Well, that doesn't surprise me really, but
it doesn't. But I'm sure they probably don't like that stuff public. But the guy probably should have known better than to go on a podcast and
probably.
discuss business. I mean, unless he went on as like a fan, or just to talk about video games in general, not to actually discuss his work. But um, I feel bad for the guy. He, kind of basically took the blame for everything. But it's kind of a sad thing all around. I probably think that Nintendo should have reprimanded him, but
Yeah.
as long as he's not giving out like trade secrets, like
Hmm.
basically do something that where the guy doesn't lose his job and
Right.
his means of income to support his family and I want to say maybe I was reading something about him losing his health insurance, and maybe that was a big deal for this guy. So I don't know if somebody in his family had health problems or something, but hopefully the guy can find work. But that was kind of a sadder story I read this week.
Man, when you sign those NDAs, I speak from experience here, guys, because I have to sign one at work. Shut the fuck up. Like, seriously,
Right.
don't talk. Like, just, like you said, he should have just appeared in as a fan. If they asked him what Nintendo's doing, he should have been like, man, we've got a lot of great things in the work. Just be their cheering section. Like, if you really want to see the company succeed, rah rah sis boom bah. Be like, guys, yeah, we know, we've heard everything that you guys want. We're working on it. It's just be patient here. We got some shit in the works. Just stay tuned. But I mean, it's that's a tough issue for me, Tyler, because it's like I get it, because I've worked in my job with having to sign NDAs before, so I kind of get where Nintendo's coming from on that. It's a no-no. Like when you do that shit, you got to shut up. I mean, it's you sign on to that as part of the job, but
Right.
at the same time, excuse me, the guy's a fan. It's like fans like to talk about stuff, and I don't know. I guess I'm walking in both worlds on that one, but I agree. It's unfortunate the guy had to lose his job. That sucks.
Right.
So
Apparently, Pornhub was the place to go catch your Fallout 4 footage this week.
what the fuck? You want to talk about flying under the radar? I mean, I got it. Whoever did this is fucking brilliant because it's like,
Right.
hi, I'm Bethesda. Where am I going to look for Fallout 4 leak footage? Not fucking Pornhub. So
Right.
can you even do that at work? I think that site would be blocked. So
Yeah, and I thought some of the tags for that video were pretty funny. Like big ass and or
cock
something
and
like,
shit. Yeah.
right. Like they had just these random tags on it. So I
Beautiful.
thought that was pretty amateur video. So,
Nice.
so I thought that was pretty funny this week. But
Brilliant.
that is smart because I mean the footage from YouTube was probably taken out within minutes,
Oh,
if
sure.
not seconds.
Sure.
So.
That's funny.
And apparently I didn't even get on to see it, but apparently the footage was pretty bad anyway. It was pretty grainy and all that. So you really had to be pretty desperate to get on there and watch it just because of the quality of the footage and all that, and having to be inundated with pop-ups and stuff from Pornhub
No
to
shit.
watch.
Speaking of Fallout 4, did you hear that Bethesda announced that there will be absolutely no level cap?
I did see that, and I'm glad because when you finish a lot of those games, like Bethesda has, like Skyrim. And I know Skyrim does this, but after the game, you can actually continue to quest afterwards. Well, Fallout, wasn't that way, and I'm glad that they actually added that to the game because there's a ton of quests in Skyrim that I didn't get to, dungeons I didn't get to explore, and that's one of the cool things to do at the end of the game when you don't have to, worry about the quest or whatever. It's just going around exploring the levels or not level, but the world, and kind of immersing yourself in it. So I thought that was really good news.
Yeah, man. It's level caps are stupid anyways. Just let us keep playing the game.
Right.
That's what I say.
This week I actually saw that Blizzard said they would consider making not World of Warcraft, but Warcraft 4 after they finish with StarCraft 2. So they're thinking about it. They said they're possibly thinking. So
Do you
that's
want?
pretty vague.
Would you like me to translate that into English? Because I
Yeah.
can. That you're speaking Blizzard speak. I'm going to translate it into English. Everyone can do. It's not going to happen until we're 50 fucking years old. That's basically what that means. Because think about it.
Right.
They were working on Diablo 3 for what, like a fucking decade? And that's
Yeah.
when they were working on it. We're talking, they're thinking about it, which means they're probably years away from doing it. So if they spend, let's say, 7, 8 years, working on the next game, you can tack 5, 6 years on top of that, meaning like Tyler and I are going to be close to fucking retiring. So it's going to be like, yeah, no.
Well, I think they would be smart to do it. I saw this week that World of Warcraft was actually at its lowest subscriber total that it's been at in a long time. So people are definitely falling away from that game finally. I know I was a WoW addict, as a lot of my friends will tell you back in the day. One of the best MMOs I've ever played, but it's something that you definitely can't have a personal life and
No.
do that at the same time, be successful at it. So
I play WoW.
it's
Hey,
kinda,
ladies, hey, where you going? No, that's
Right.
pretty much the typical WoW player.
but I just it's kind of killed other MMOs because I know how addictive it was back in the day, and I just don't want to even get into that anymore. So like
MMOs
I
are
just
for 20
steer
year old
away
dudes,
from it.
man. It's guys like in college or right out of college in their early 20s. They don't have a significant other. They aren't married. They don't have kids. That's the target audience. When I got into EverQuest, City of Heroes, stuff like that, that's the age that I was in. And almost everyone I knew that played it was basically in the same boat. It's just, Tyler said it best. You cannot have a social life and play those games because the amount of time required to actually do anything substantial in the game is insane. I mean, it
Right.
really is insane. You just can't do it. So
And we had a pretty eclectic guild when I was playing the
Did you?
game. I was in a guild called Metal Psychosis, and we had lawyers, doctors,
Nice.
homemakers, military guys. I mean, just people from all, of course, plenty of college kids,
Right.
chefs, and all that. But it was just, when our guild broke up, it was hard to keep interest in the game because a lot of the addiction of WoW is you feel almost obligated to play and to help these people out because they're your friends, first off. You develop relationships with these people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you feel like you're almost like letting them down if you're not on or whatever. Because I know played a warlock in the game, and there were several bosses that warlocks had to tank for in the game, and some of the in-game rating. And I was the warlock tank for my guild, and if I didn't log on, they basically couldn't do the raid or whatever. So, I mean, and that's kind of some of the problems that you'll find with MMOs is like they make it to where you have to log on pretty much every day, and I think we rated like maybe 5 or 6 days out of the week.
Wow.
And we're talking about from probably 6 or 7 o'clock till probably 11 or 12 at night. So I mean, it's hard to keep that up, and of course, you have to gather gold to buy materials and stuff. People that played MMOs know what I'm talking about, but definitely a time sink to say the least.
I think MMOs are definitely on the decline right now as far as popularity. I mean, there's still a couple of them out there. There's what is it? Fucking Elder Scrolls Online. That one's doing okay, but have you noticed that the number of them has shrank dramatically?
Well, nobody could compete with World of Warcraft. I think that was the very first successful one after EverQuest.
Yeah.
I think maybe Guild Wars was kind of popular
because it was.
But
free,
I mean, there's been some that Lord of the Rings for a little while it had a decent number of people playing it, but
Star Wars Online
that died off really quickly.
Yeah.
From what I knew the build up to that was great, and they had a really interesting storylines for each character and all that, but that died off really quickly. But nobody could seem to catch the numbers like Warcraft did. I mean, they were just printing money. They had like over 10 million subscribers at one time, and everybody's paying $14 a month.
Right.
I mean, you're talking ridiculous loads of cash that they were getting each month from people subscribed to Warcraft.
Yes, sir.
This week I saw that Ernest Cline, the guy that wrote Ready Player One, signed a new book deal for his third book, which is a sci-fi book, and the people that reported on it said it was reportedly for 7 figures. So apparently he's doing pretty well for himself now. So I'm glad for him that he's sounds like he's a big time book writer, author now. So I got to meet him, like I was telling you in the couple podcasts ago. I got to meet him a couple weeks ago, and really down to earth guy. And it's good to see that a fellow nerd like we are is making it in the world and doing well for himself. So I'm happy for him.
Cool, dude.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for news. Do you have anything else?
No, as far as news, man, that's all I got. I'm newsed out.
All right.
We do have a couple topics that I would like to consider. This is, I don't know, just two things that I think have been long gestating in my brain here, and I think it'd be cool for Tyler and I to cover this and just to give our thoughts. The first would be the topic of quote-unquote realism in video games, meaning not just like video games that cover realistic topics, because we've got Modern Warfare and Call of Duty and stuff like that. Those are semi-based in reality, with a little sprinkle of fantasy toppled in there. But it's something that's always irritated me is when people say that they want realism in a video game, like when it comes to the proportions of females, for example. I know that's come under fire a lot lately. A lot of the feminist groups are saying women aren't portrayed accurately in video games. They're all double D cups. They all have like 3% body fat and everything. They all look like supermodels and stuff. And I don't know, man. It's something that I've always found irritating because it's like, it's a video game. A video game, to me, by definition, is an escape. It's not supposed to be realistic. Like, if it were really realistic and if that's what people really craved was realism, why the fuck would you be playing video games in the first place? You just go outside. If you really wanted something that accurately replicates your real, mundane, everyday life, why would you do that in a video game? You've already got that, and it's free. I've always pondered that question, like, okay, yeah, like, do the girls look a little bit exaggerated? Do they all look like they're just, perfect 10 supermodels? Well, sure, but you know what? Pretty much all the guys do too. So it's not unique to women. That's not a uniquely female problem. Like, all the guys are fucking jacked, with abs and everything. All the heroes and even all the villains are like, they look like male models and everything. I don't really care if something is unrealistic in a video game. I honestly don't give a shit. That's not going to be a draw for me at all, because every time I sit down, controller in my hands, and I'm ready to play a video game, I want a complete departure from my everyday life. I want something that is the polar opposite of what I have to deal with on a daily life, because that's the whole reason I'm investing time into this video game, is I want to transport myself into a different space where I can be, in Skyrim, I can be a guy slaying dragons. In Wolfenstein, I can be a guy taking on Nazis. It's cool. It's like the next evolution of movies. You get to step into the role of these people and basically be someone else, somewhere else. But those are my thoughts on it, man. What's your take on it?
I'm kind of the same mindset you are. Video games to me are an art form, and I don't think we should have to inject realism in that sense. I mean, you're playing something that's basically fantasy. Why do we have to inject realism in that sense into the game? There's plenty of realism in video games. You just got to find the right ones.
Right.
And who are we to say, you should do this? Do we tell an author, what he should do with his characters? No.
Right.
So why are you telling these artists? And I kind of liken them to, artists that like paint portraits and stuff like that. Like, we don't tell the artists how to paint, and not necessarily portraits, but just paintings in general. We don't tell them what to paint, and I see what they're saying in that, but I don't think that female characters in video games are causing women to have eating issues or anything like that.
Not at
So,
all.
you know, maybe it's not realistic, but I mean, a lot of video games aren't. So, I mean, you're in a lot of games using magical powers and
Right.
um, you know, I don't see the sense of it. I think it's a stupid topic, and I just wish that mainstream media, which I think came up with that, would just leave the whole issue alone and just it would die off because I saw some of the some of the pictures of the not superhero women but women video game characters, and
Right.
it looked ridiculous to me. Leave them alone. Leave these iconic characters alone,
Yeah.
please.
It's like,
And all of them were overweight. Did you notice that?
yeah.
Why do these women have to be relegated to be overweight? I mean, there's plenty of women out there that aren't overweight,
Right.
you know.
It's
But
Hollywood in
that's
general,
just
man. Like the action stars, the female and male action stars. Are they like a realistic depiction of the average person? Of course not. That's why they're in a fucking action movie. I mean, does every guy look like Hugh Jackman all cut up to shit with like 1% body fat to the point where he's actually getting headaches because he's so dehydrated? And true story, folks, by the way. That scene in the last Wolverine movie where he's like all freaking cut up to shit and he's like going toe to toe with that one samurai guy. He didn't drink water for an entire day to get that freaking shredded. Like, he wanted all the water out of his body, and he apparently had a pounding headache the whole time through that scene. That's what it takes to get to look like that. So it's not realistic at all. Like, you can't maintain that. He doesn't look like that when he's not playing Wolverine. I'm sure he's a really
right.
fit dude, but I mean, obviously he turns it up a notch every time, it's time to bring out the claws and shit. He pulls out the stops and trains his ass off. But can you do that all the time? No, it's not even healthy to have your body fat that low, man. That's when you start getting sick. So it's people targeting video games. It's scapegoating at its best because the evil video game. It's making people shoot people. It's making people have eating disorders. It's making people just do really dumb criminal shit. No, that's the same old tired argument that people saying that guns invented crime. No, you cannot blame the object for the outcome. It's people. It will always be people. End of discussion. So thank you for your thoughts on that, sir, and thank you guys for indulging my fucking mini rant here. Okay, so out of that rant into the next one. Okay, this is always something that since I've been on YouTube, I've been irritated by. It isn't across the board. It really isn't. This isn't how everyone feels, but it's more the stigma, I guess, that I take issue with, and that's collectors such as myself and Tyler, who are very avid and very serious video game collectors, making purchases online. Things like eBay, Amazon, any of those online marketplaces. There seems to be this stigma around it that's cheating, that you should not be using that to get your collecting fix, so to speak. And there's a lot of people out there who've completed collections who haven't had to use it, and to them I say, great. That's a fucking amazing thing that you've done. I guess the elephant in the room would be Pat the NES Punk. He has a complete NES collection, and 0 of it was purchased through eBay. Okay, that's great. However, that was like years ago, and before retro game collecting became what it is now, where we're basically at the crescendo of the bubble, and he kind of was doing it before almost anyone else was doing. He was kind of flying under the radar where you could still get this stuff for a reasonable price. Excuse me, where Contra wasn't like 30-40 bucks. It was like a $5-10 game. We live in a completely different world now, ladies and gentlemen, and the odds of you actually finding gold at a yard sale are slim to none. It can still happen, but are you going to find like a fucking Nintendo World Championship card at a yard sale? No. You have a better chance of winning the goddamn lottery. Are you going to find Little Samson or anything like that, or all these games that have this stigma surrounding them that you have to have them to be a serious collector, which I think is absolutely absurd. No, there's too many of them that have already been sold online or are kept in private collections and are just tied up, and the people aren't going to give them up. So I've always felt that it was kind of idiotic to not use the internet to help yourself further your collection, because eBay to me has always been the world's yard sale. Like, it's basically one giant flea market where you can buy anything and everything. You want to buy like a grilled cheese that has the face of Jesus Christ on it? Well, they have that too. So it just seems like that's such a huge and helpful tool. Why wouldn't you use that? I mean, I'm not saying go out and just pay what everyone else is expecting you to pay. I deal hunt even though I'm doing it on eBay. Like, just because I see something and that's the going rate, do I pull the trigger on it? No. Like, you can set up these things called recurring watch auctions where it'll basically do the homework for you. It'll send you a daily report of every listing that matches your description. So if you're looking for a particular game, you can put eBay to work for it and it'll do the homework and it'll just weed out the shit. You know, you can set a price limit and everything. So I don't understand why someone would frown on that and just say, like, you know, oh, you know, that's cheating. You know, you're not a real fucking collector. Says who? Like really? Like, because when I go into the fucking retro game lounge, I think it looks like I'm a pretty goddamn serious collector, and anyone who says otherwise doesn't know shit about collecting. So I think in the world we live in, guys, if this was 6 or 7 years ago, could it be done? Yes. It'd be tough and it would take years. Yes. Now, virtually impossible. I think getting a complete anything through yard sales, or even just through like the Nintendo collecting sites, for example, where it's just guys trading, even through that, like if you're just limiting yourself to that, even then it would still be difficult, because the problem is that most collectors are guys like me and Tyler. They're not going to give their shit up. They're going to keep it for the long haul. They're going to keep it basically until they're dead. So until the whole approach to collecting changes, until that whole mindset changes, I think it's only going to get harder. It's never going to get easier. But those are my thoughts on it. I'll turn it over to you, my friend. Hit me. Come on. Nerd man, unleash the fear, dude. Come on. Let me have it.
As somebody that doesn't live really close to a metropolitan area, I live about an hour from Memphis. So for me to frequent any type of yard sale or anything, which are very few and far between where I live at, it's really just not feasible. Just from just my perspective, I'm better served by buying something on eBay and actually having it shipped to me than I'm spending all that gas money driving there and back. And you know, we don't really have that many mom and pop video game stores anymore. I'd say when I moved here, we had maybe 4 or 5, and now there's one in Memphis. So I'd have to drive 2 hours round trip just to get to it, and usually they're more expensive than eBay is. So, and you know, I like all my stuff to be complete in box, and this is one of the old school stores that has like all the boxes on the shelf. But you know, if you buy the game, you just get the cart. They keep that on the shelf to, you know, display or whatever. But you know, it's just not feasible for me as a collector to do it. GameStop's probably, you know, taking out most of the mom and pop shops,
right,
around most places, just because, you know, people go buy their modern games there. And I think there will be a better market for mom and pop shops later in the future, when GameStop starts to be more irrelevant, without, you know, because at that point we'll probably be going all digital, so we'll have to have a place to go to get physical games. So I think they'll come back in the future, but just as a, you know, from the perspective of everyday buying and stuff, I have to go online to get my games because there's nowhere locally. I can tell you maybe one out of the hundreds of times I've been to Goodwill here in town, one time they might have had games. And, you know, mostly it's garbage. It's stuff that you don't want, that's been written on and everything like that. So, you know, and I know, like, I can save myself the money and gas just to go online. If I'm looking for a specific game, right, I can just pick it out, buy it, and get it sent to me. So I don't see anything wrong with going online to buy games. It sucks that the prices are so inflated now, but, you know, it's a good thing that I've kind of relegated myself to games that I want to play. I don't buy shit, you know, just to sit on the shelf. Just say, hey, I've got that, so I can have a complete collection of this. That's not what I go for. I go for games that I enjoy, games that I want to play. So I don't see any problem with buying stuff on eBay or Amazon or any other website like that.
Right on, bro. I'm with you. The majority of my purchases are made online because I'm at the point where I mean, I still go to yard sales, I still go to Goodwill, I still go to the local game stores here. And do I find things on occasion that I don't have? Sure. I mean, every probably 1 out of 5 times that I go there, maybe I'll find something. But guys, my collecting is getting to the point where all the common shit is pretty much already there. So I'm basically left with the things where what I like to call targeted purchasing, where the online marketplace definitely shines because you don't have to go to the store, hoping that they have something you want. You can basically just search and find it. So, like Tyler said, that's I'm going after the stuff I really want right now, and unfortunately, the stuff I really want that I don't have is not cheap. It's actually, the more of it I get, it seems the more expensive it gets. Because the stuff that I want is just getting rarer and rarer and rarer, and more people want it. And anytime James Rolfe and Mike Mattai sit down to play a fucking game or something like that, then the value of the game fucking skyrockets. I'm sure they're not doing that on purpose, but I mean, God, I mean, that's so infuriating. Every time I see that they put up a James and Mike Monday, I pray it's not a game that I have. Or I pray it's a game that I don't that I already have. It's like, oh God, please let me have this one. Please let me have this one. Because if it's not, then it's like, well, there went that idea. So it's just, I mean, it's cool that YouTube is having that kind of impact on pop culture, but at the same time, as a collector, it's infuriating.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up my 2 rant topics. Unless you have anything else, man, I want to go ahead and jump into some freaking user questions because listener, viewer. God, I'm just an idiot today. I'm sorry. You guys aren't users. We're not your drug dealers. Like, hey, man, we're holding. You want some? We got you covered. We got your fix. First one's free. Now, it's all free here, man. It's all free. We're rock and rollers, man. So, we have some viewer/listener questions, guys. This is my favorite segment of the show, actually. And this week, we've got more than we've ever had. So, for all of you guys who tune into the Facebook page, which is the Nerd Podcast, who left questions on the videos, either on Tyler's channel or my channel, you can really leave the questions anywhere. It'd be nice if you did them all on the Facebook channel, but, guys, it's all good. Leave a comment. Facebook, YouTube, whatever. We'll get them on the show. So thank you to all of you who submitted a question. Let's see. First, we have my man Mike, my fellow YouTube brother. Mike asks, thoughts on online games only? Games like Destiny offering nothing new but charging full price for shit. That's a really good question, dude, because I'm a Destiny player, actually. Okay, so when I bought Destiny, I actually was not aware that it is online only. That was news to me when I actually sat down to play it. I was like, holy shit, when they take the servers down here, this game is going to be a fucking paperweight to me. So as a collector, does that irritate me? Absolutely. I think online only is fucking stupid. Unless it comes to MMOs, I get it. It has its place there. But, excuse me, for things like Destiny, which isn't technically an MMO, it's more just a co-op slash versus multiplayer game. I guess I can see it from a technical perspective why it makes more sense for Bungie to do that, but at the same time, I just find it irritating because it's like, what if 10 years from now, when no one plays Destiny anymore, I want to play it, I can't, and that's stupid. Right. All the money that I've sunk into that game and the DLC and shit is all completely fucking useless. I literally can't even log in to play. But your question regarding offering nothing new but charging full price for shit. Okay, so a lot of people have definitely fired some shots at Bungie for not handling the DLC when it comes to Destiny correctly. And as a rule, I would tend to agree. The first DLC they gave us, it added some, cool features, with the Horde mode basically thing. That's cool. We got some extra missions and things, but did it come close to equaling the price point, which I think was it was $30, I think, for that DLC. No, this should have been $15, $20 tops. $30 I think was a bit of a stretch considering what we got. I have read that, however, the next, what is it called, the Fallen King, I think, the next DLC that Destiny's supposed to get is supposed to be very significant, meaning it's going to make the game significantly larger. And the price I think is about the same as the last one. So if that is true, and Bungie have seen the writing on the wall and gotten their crap together and be like, okay, if we're going to charge $30, we need to give these people like a big chunk of game. If that's true, then maybe this can be redeemed, and maybe what they're bringing to the table is truly new and awesome. I heard there's a new character class, and just all this other shit that they're adding, so I'm going to play it. I love playing Destiny, so I guess we'll see what happens, but thanks for the question, Mike.
I'm kind of the same opinion you are. I think that I think every game should honestly have a campaign just to give the person playing it a reason to pop it back in one day. Yeah. And it was I love Titanfall, the multiplayer, but there's no reason that game should not have a campaign. That could have been an awesome game if it had a full campaign. Like you put that much work in a game and not have a campaign that somebody can play, and it doesn't have to be forever long. It could be like a 6 to 8 hour campaign. 8 hour campaign is pretty much like a perfect size game for a lot of people, because I know, me and Jimbo, we work, we don't have, 40 hours to put into a game. Right. So, we want something that we can play, we can beat in about a week's time, playing a little every night. And, just to not have that at all, I ended up selling my copy of Titanfall because I played the multiplayer, but there was no reason for me to hold on to that. And there's a chance that I would still be playing some multiplayer on Titanfall if it had a campaign. And I think that's important for every game to have. And I think it's just laziness by the companies to think that they can just sell a multiplayer game and not include a campaign. It should be included in every game that a developer makes other than MMO. And, Destiny is kind of its own animal. It's kind of a MMO / co-op type thing. So, if that's your cup of tea, of course, Elder Scrolls Online, that's basically an MMO. So I can see it in games like that. But like Titanfall, no excuse. That was a big disappointment for me, knowing that they could have put a campaign and made that probably, a AAA game. And it was a AAA game, but it didn't have that replayability because, there was nothing to keep you, to wanting to keep the game to replay it one day. So that's my opinion on it. I think it's garbage.
That's basically the only reason that I didn't buy Titanfall, is when I heard it didn't have a campaign. I was like, I'm not giving them my money then.
Yeah, because
dumb.
And I ended up selling it on eBay, and I bought another game with it. So, and that's what happens when you don't put campaigns in games. People end up getting rid of your product. And think if they would have put a campaign, people would have kept the game, and probably eventually they would release new maps and stuff, and that would have kept people purchasing content from them, and they would have got more money out of the game. So I think it's I hope if they ever make another Titanfall, I don't know if they are. If they do, I hope they include that in the next one.
Nice.
So, all right, the next question I have is from Eric Malloyd, and he said, if you could bring 5 characters with you during the zombie apocalypse, 5 fictional characters, who would they be? And I've got them I ranked them from 5 to 1. So
all yours. Go ahead.
I've got Ash, of course. You got to bring Ash with you in a zombie apocalypse. Mm-hmm. I've got Master Chief just because he's a badass. He saved humanity. He's got a suit. People can't touch him. I mean, I thought he'd be a good one. And then the other ones I chose, Superman. I thought, with his heat vision, he could just burn up everything around you. And I've got, as 2 and 1, I've kind of got characters with similar abilities. I've got Deadpool, and then I've got Wolverine.
Wow.
Yeah, so
like
I mean,
just super team here.
Right.
Holy
so those
shit.
Those are my 5 fictional characters to take in a zombie apocalypse.
Okay. I'm going to shoot from the hip a little bit on this. I do have a couple in mind, but I'm going to round out my 5. I would also choose Ash, mainly because he has experience taking on the undead. I would also choose Duke Nukem because dude's got the firepower. I mean, that's definitely what I want. He's got the crazy ass guns and shit. I would definitely bring Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead because he's fucking Daryl Dixon, dude. I mean, he's the Clint Eastwood of the undead apocalypse. Let's see. Bomberman.
Nice.
I would bring Bomberman. Why? Because he has an infinite supply of bombs, and it's pointless for a zombie to attack him because he's not human. He's an android, so zombie bites don't mean shit to him. What was that, 4?
I think so.
4, so I need one more. Batman.
There you go.
Because you know why? He'd already have the plan. He'd already have a contingency set up. Like I've got a plan for this, and they're like, "You do?" And it's like, "Yes." Like, here's the deployment. And you're like, "Fuck, you really are Batman." So yes,
Batman always has a contingency plan. So I thought that, and I have.
He has a backup to the backup plan.
Yeah. And I actually have two alternates here, 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
And I chose Isaac Clarke from Dead Space games. He's that plasma cutter.
Nice.
You know, just going through the entire crowd, taking off limbs. I thought that'd be a good one. And I've got to choose Samus. You know, big Metroid fan. She's got that suit. She can just blast them. Got missiles in it. So those are my honorable mentions on that list. So.
Oh, before we get to the next question, there's something real quick that I want to mention. I had like a nerd epiphany moment when I was watching television the other day. Okay, so I'm a big fan of *Halt and Catch Fire*. For those of you who have not watched it, do you watch it, dude? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a guy on there plays this character named Gordon, and he's like a techie guy, like he's the brilliant computer programmer guy. And as I'm looking at this guy, I'm seeing one thing, and I just can't unsee it now. I see fucking, oh god, what the hell? I see Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. Like, this dude is a dead ringer for him. And I'm like, dude, if they do a Half-Life movie, this guy needs to play him because he's totally convincing as playing like a smart guy because Gordon Freeman's a scientist. So it's like, yeah, I just had like this fanboy like orgasm. Like, oh my god, this would be perfect. Like, they need to build a movie around him. So Scoot McNairy, guys, is the actor's name. Look him up. Particularly look at him where he's got the Van Dyke thing going on like he does on *Halt and Catch Fire*. I swear to God, you're gonna be like, dude, that's Gordon Freeman. He's even got the glasses. So it's him. Okay, so next question. Corey Stover. This is a really good question, Corey. Thank you for submitting this. This took some real thought on my part. 2 games you'd fuse together into one. Okay, I have 2. And I apologize if mine is taking one of yours away, because I think it might be, but I don't know. Okay.
You don't give a fuck if it takes...
I don't give a fuck. I don't care. But it's such a good one, I can't not say it. Mega Man and Metroid. Because those 2 characters, I would absolutely believe, could exist in the same universe, and I think would be really cool. You know, they both have suits that power up, you know, different abilities and things like that. Like, dude, Mega Man and Samus Aran together, fucking unstoppable. Like, you need to bring in Superman to take them down. The other would be a very obvious one. I would pair up Uncharted with Tomb Raider. I mean, think about it.
I like that.
They both basically do the same thing. They're like the guy and girl version of each other. They're both treasure seekers, basically. You know, both with double gun shit, too. So it's, yeah. I could see that. I could see that making an interesting game if they ever did a crossover. But that's my 2. I give you 2 for the price of 1, Corey.
Okay, I kind of thought about this a different way than you did.
Okay.
And I didn't pair up 2 things that were kind of alike. I paired up 2 things that I would love to see in a video game.
Okay.
And I love action games. I love action movies.
Okay.
And I thought, what better to combine than Grand Theft Auto 5
Okay.
and combine that with Max Payne.
Holy
3.
shit.
to have the bullet time. Have you played Max Payne 3?
Of course, I love Max Payne.
Oh my god, that is so good. I want to go through and just to play with the bullet time again because that game is so much fun. But to combine that with Grand Theft Auto, having the cars and all that, I don't think it could get any better in a game.
Good one, dude. I like it. Like your
All right.
style.
Our next question is from Joshua Moore, and he wants to know, what do we think the lifespan should be of a console before a company actually moves on to another system? And
Good question.
in my opinion, I would say probably 5 to 7 years. I think that's a good lifespan for a console. If you think about it, back in the early '90s, it was pretty short for a lot of consoles. Um, you know, especially for Sega Genesis, not necessarily for Nintendo, but Sega was like pumping out, like it had the Genesis out for a while and it had a nice lifespan, but then it put out Sega CD, and then pretty soon after that there was the 32. Oh, there was the did 32X come before Sega CD? I can't remember. But anyways, they were popping out new stuff, left and right. And here, recently we have Nintendo already looking like they're going to abandon the Wii U.
Yeah.
Pretty. What are we, like 2 or 3 years since it's been released? And I don't know when the new system's supposed to come out, but maybe it'll be a deal where they keep supporting the Wii U, and this other thing is just kind of like a separate animal, like the 3DS is. Maybe it's kind of a standalone platform, and maybe they'll continue to put out games. But the problem with the Wii U that I see is it doesn't have third-party support, so they've got to move on to something different where they have the third-party support. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'd say 5 to 7 years is a good lifespan.
I would go maybe 1 year beyond that and say between 6 and 8, mainly because I feel that the majority of the really great titles for a console come in around year 4 or year 5, meaning the programmers and the developers and everything really have mastered how to make games for this system. Like, they worked out the bugs and they know what the system is capable of doing. We're not close to that yet with the PS4 and the Xbox One. They're still kind of getting their druthers and figuring out how everything works. And I think within about the next year to year and a half, we're going to see some truly amazing games, like the landmark games that the system is going to be known for. I'm sure the next Halo 5 will be, leaps and bounds beyond everything that we've seen before. And I don't know. I mean, it's from a tech perspective, it's kind of nice that, if they brought a new console out, let's say every 6 years or so, because of how fast technology moves. But at the same time, guys, consoles are not getting any cheaper. I mean, like, the longer that they can stretch that number just to ease the burden on my wallet, is definitely a good thing. Like, this latest generation has been surprisingly low cost. It's actually been the same, if not less, than the previous generation. The Xbox 360, when it came out, was $400. The Xbox One, when it came out, was, what was it, $500? And I think they knocked it down to $400. So we're only a couple years in here, and you can get an Xbox One for $350 with a game, no less. I mean, it took quite a while, actually, for the Xbox 360 to come down to that, and you still only get the system. So, that being said, the technology it takes, the advancement of all this stuff, it's going to only get more expensive. I mean, it really is, to the point where a console might last you 10 years or something like that, because they'll make the thing so badass that it's going to have a lifespan that's just absolutely unbelievable. And I'm okay with that, honestly. If I don't have to fork out the cash and they're really putting out consistent quality games and pushing that envelope, I'm okay with that. But it's, I'm kind of torn on this one. I definitely do agree with Tyler, for the reasons of tech advancement, because of the way things move. But as a consumerist, it's nice to not have to constantly be changing platforms. Plus, dude, I got so many fucking consoles hooked up right now. It's like, guys, don't give me another one. I don't have any more room. So, it's a tough question to answer, Josh, but I hope between the two of us we've answered your question to the best of our ability. So,
we actually got 2 late questions. I know you wanted to tackle one specific one, but I actually had one on my YouTube page, and this is from Venom Ram on YouTube, and he wants to know what games disappointed us this year. And I don't necessarily have a specific one that disappointed me, that came out this year that disappointed me, but I had one that came out last year that disappointed me,
Hmm.
and that was the Master Chief Collection. And that was just because of all of the bugs in the game. I tried to play the first level a few weeks ago, and there's certain points like when you finish killing all the enemies on the level. Of course, it's supposed to start like a cutscene. Well, for some reason, you know, it won't queue and all that. And I figured that the game had been out long enough to where they've actually patched the everything to where all the bugs were fixed, but apparently, there's still some bugs with that. And that's a game that really disappointed me because, there's so much packed into that. That's
Yeah.
one of those collections that I thought they were really going to it was going to be kind of a showpiece for the system, and it definitely kind of fell short with all the bugs on it. So that was a pretty big disappointment this year for me.
I would agree.
Do you
That'd
have
probably
any
be
disappointing?
that'd be my pick. That is like a textbook example of how to not handle a game launch right. Where like 120 days into the release of the thing, they were still trying to patch it and figure it out. That's just completely unacceptable. For the amount, for $60, this thing should be right out of the gate, man. They shouldn't be dealing with this crap after the fact. But I think it's a lot of this is coming from the pressure from the studios to get these out by such and such date. We need it before Christmas, and they're setting these deadlines that I think are just unachievable. And as gamers, I think we'd be okay with waiting as long as it was done correctly. Like, we'll wait an extra few months or a half a year or whatever, just so they've got the time to work out the programming bugs and release the game correct. It's just become this recurring trend, with what was it, the Assassin's Creed Online, the Halo Master Chief Collection, and there's just been a string of these releases lately. They've basically been releasing broken games, and
Yeah,
that's
Assassin's Creed Unity was like
that was
one of
bad.
the most broken games I've ever seen.
It was. They did eventually fix it, and it was eventually playable. That was actually the first co-op game I played on an Xbox One. But um, it, this trend, at least so far, seems to be dying. As far as them just shoving things out unready, they do seem to be okay with taking a little bit more time just to get things right, and I hope that continues. Because there's nothing more frustrating than like you get home and like shit don't work. I mean
Right.
that's not cool. So, thank you very much for the question. What was the user's name after that?
YouTube user Venom Ram.
Venom Ram. Thank you very much for the question. So our final question today comes from a lovely young lady, Hunter in DC, and her question is: since Tyler mentioned getting his girlfriend to game with him, I have a question regarding that. What method or methods would you use to seduce your girlfriend into gaming with you? And there's no bribery or blackmailing involved. And please note that said girlfriend owns firearms and is highly competitive. That's the most specific question I think we're ever going to get, Hunter in DC. So thank you very much for that. But what would I use to seduce? I personally go with the pecs. I mean, it's like that's always worked for me with the ladies, man. When I want to get them done, it's just like So, but no. In all seriousness, I think, and I have some experience with this, as I recently reintroduced my significant other to retro gaming. I sent her a little retro console in Super Mario Brothers. Since we're from the same generation, of course, she grew up with Mario like any other red-blooded American did. And according to her, she basically spent hours playing it, the first time right out of the box, just kind of reawoke, that kind of, wow, remember when games were simple, and there is something to be said for that. You can still get that a little bit in modern games these days. For the record, guys, she does have an Xbox One and she has the Rare Replay, which, yeah, I don't know if she's cracked into that yet. Pardon me, I haven't gotten that far, but she's definitely a lover of simple games. So I think what I did with the Super Mario Brothers thing, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that's like the textbook way of getting your girlfriend back into video games, because everyone from our generation can relate to that. I mean, Mario is basically the Mickey Mouse of games. Everyone knows who he is in one incarnation or another. And who doesn't love sitting down and, just, hearing the Mario theme song play and just going through level one? It's timeless. It's classic. It's ageless. And the best part is that anyone can do it. You got the simple 2-button controllable. According to that study they did recently, apparently the kids of these days can't get through the first level of Super Mario Brothers because all they've been playing is 3D shooters, which I think is fucking insane. But
it's sad.
It's just like the games are so handed to them on a silver platter that the skill involved in them actually is almost being sucked out of it. You know, there was no tutorials when we were growing up. All you had was the instruction manual and your friends and maybe Nintendo Power. You know, that's it. Like the rest of it, there was no internet. You just had to figure this shit out. You know, you were left to your own devices, and that's why, you know, as the expression goes, it's called NES hard for a reason, because that's like the measure of skill in video games. But Hunter and DC, I say stick and anyone else listening, trying to get their girlfriends into gaming, stick to the classics, man. I mean, it's just it's a really simple way of getting your significant other into video games.
I think how I would seduce my girlfriend into playing.
Sorry, it just sounds so odd.
Playing video games. Well, no, she said we couldn't seduce, right?
She said that you can't use bribery or blackmailing, meaning you can't threaten them. There was. I don't mean to cut you off, but there was one other thing I wanted to mention. She had mentioned that said girlfriend owns firearms and is highly competitive. Okay, well, please put the guns away. We don't need to deal with those right now when it comes to video gaming. But if they're highly competitive, a retro fighter. Like original Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, anything like that. Just a simple back and forth kind of fighter. I love playing those with friends and stuff like that. And I don't think I've ever played one with a girlfriend before. Like, not for real, but...
Well, I think I've got a better solution for you.
What's that?
And, well, first off, I think I would start them off by playing Super Mario, like you said.
Yeah, man.
If you're wanting to play something more modern, definitely start off with the Super Mario 3D World, or what is it, 3D Land or 3D World? I can't remember.
Land was on the DS.
World,
or
okay.
New Super Mario Brothers, that one too.
I think that one's a really good one because you can actually play it co-op.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one to start off with. But Nintendo is like perfect for getting people to play video games, absolutely. And then you can move up from there. But I think since she's so competitive, a great game to play, which is always a lot of fun with 2 people or more, would be Mario Party.
Good idea. I didn't think.
Yeah,
of that.
and all the mini games and stuff and like that. I think that'd be really fun, and it doesn't necessarily revolve around skill so much as like one person can definitely just dominate the other person. I mean, you might be good at a couple other mini games, and she's good at certain mini games or whatever. So I'm sure it would balance out, and since you're only using a few buttons on the controller, it wouldn't be too hard to figure out. So
I just realized that I really left the elephant in the room out of my question, and if I don't say it, I'm gonna fucking hate myself. Okay. There is no person that I have introduced to this franchise who has not had a good time, regardless of their skill in video games. Bomberman. Anyone can play it. It's a competitive game. It's fun. It's silly. It has that kind of Nintendo quality to it, where it's kind of cartoonish and it's fun. My 6 and 8 or 8 and 10-year-old nephew absolutely love it. So it even appeals to the generation today. I've let chicks play it, guys play it. Everyone who's played it's had a good time. Bomberman is so accessible and it's so simple and it's fun and it's fucking addictive, which is what I like about it. So, Hunter and DC, thank you very much for the question. That was incredibly specific.
Yep.
And she apparently thinks your accent's adorable, by the way. So
nice.
Right on, dude. I think it's the beard.
Thanks, Hunter and DC. But yeah, I think that's it for our listener questions. Definitely, guys, keep sending that in to us. We would love to answer them every show. So y'all keep hitting us up with questions on the Facebook page or on our specific YouTube channels.
Definitely. And once again, I am Jimbo from YouTube's The Jimbo Channel. That is Tyler from Metroid's Primed. If you are a listener to this podcast and not a viewer as in the video, by all means check out our YouTube channels, man. Both very active in the retro gaming community. A lot of good tips, tricks, all that kind of crazy shit on both of our channels. By all means, check us out.
And I don't believe we can end any show without getting Jimbo's... You don't want to do it?
No, I'm saying, I was agreeing with you. There's no fucking way
we're
ending this show without
I was about to say, I'm not fucking ending this show. without
I'm not
finding
going
out
forever.
got Laserdisc in the weeks.
No, okay. So a blooming tradition on this little podcast of ours is I give you a little random kind of pickup that I've come across. Since there's so many things that I collect, I kind of cheated last week where I gave you Mantisaur, where I didn't have a Laserdisc for you.
Yeah, I had a shitty week last week because I didn't get a Laserdisc pick of the week.
Dude, I'm sorry. I mean, you should have told me that earlier. I would have brought two. But no, I think the one I brought, I think it's worthy. I think I'm going to make up for it this time.
What? Nice.
Ewoks: The Battle for Endor. Oh yeah,
I like it.
One of
is
two.
that what Wilford Brimley?
Yeah, dude. Look at the fucking Quaker Oats, dude, right there.
Oh my God, he's got diabetes.
He's got diabetes. I love my Quaker Oats. It cures my diabetes. So yes, this is one of two. Excuse me. Original Ewok movies that were penned and overseen by George Lucas. I believe they were originally television movies. That's the way that I saw them. I think they were on CBS or NBC or something like that. This one is Ewoks: The Battle for Endor, which I think is the second one. The first one's called The Ewok Adventure, which is, oddly enough, if I am correct in the RTV movies, the production value on these things are really high. Like, you watch them and it definitely feels like a Star Wars movie, man. It feels like you end Return of the Jedi and you segue right into this and hit the ground running. You know, Warwick Davis is back playing Wicket. They've got the other Ewoks and all this other stuff. There's all these other revolving characters, and it feels like Star Wars, man. Like, if they did a spin-off movie like this today, everyone would fucking hate it. But back then, it was like, dude, we're getting more Star Wars, sort of. You know, like, there's no Han Solo and there's no Luke Skywalker and there's no Princess Leia, but there's Wicket. Yay! You know, it's got a special place in my heart, guys, because it was a movie basically for kids. You know, the Ewoks were the lovable little teddy bear looking things, which were basically Wookiees, like, chopped down to midget size. But they're honestly actually pretty good movies. It's a good story. You know, the Battle for Endor is cool. You know, it's the Ewoks having to team up with some of the humans to fight this witch or something that's basically coming in to try and take over Endor. So I think you can get these on DVD. I'm pretty sure they have one DVD that has both, but it's out of print and it's actually pretty expensive. Like, we're talking $50-$60 for the DVD.
Oh, wow.
So Laserdiscs are actually a little bit cheaper. I can get this one and the other one for less than actually buying the DVD. So Laserdisc, yay! Dead Technologies, they're awesome. Look, and I got some HD DVDs here too, man. I got some. I'm like the champion of Dead Technology.
Now, if we start getting into Jimbo's Betamax pick of the week,
I don't go that far.
We're going to have to shut it down.
Yeah, I didn't go that far, dude. I don't think I have ever watched a Betamax movie. Like, actually, like, sat down and watched
I haven't either.
We were a VHS household, man. My old man picked the winner, I guess, and saw that Pioneer was going to win this one. So, but no, dude, I backed HD DVD because I figured, like, dude, it's Pioneer versus Sony again. Every time it has come down to this, Pioneer has won. So it's like, I'm backing the right horse.
Porn industry back,
the
Blu-ray.
Fucking porn industry. And who would have known? Apparently only the insider people knew that the porn industry would be the deciding factor because it's such a big deal. But I mean, I think if you had that same thing happen today, I don't think it would matter as much because the porn thing has kind of transitioned to the internet. I don't think it would have been as much of a deciding factor as it was back then. So, but HD DVDs, yay! They're awesome. They're great. So that's all I got, man. I just want to give a very heartfelt thanks to everyone listening to the podcast, to everyone tuning into it on both of our respective YouTube channels. The welcome that we've received from you guys has been very, very awesome. We understand that there's like 8 bajillion podcasts out there right now, so we know that we're fighting for your attention. But for those of you who actually do spend the time to listen to us and to participate and give comments and everything, man, you guys are fucking awesome, man. We absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you so much for the support.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Means a lot to us. But we will meet you back here next week at the same time and same place. So definitely tune in. And don't forget to leave us some reviews on iTunes if you think about it. We definitely need some positive reviews on there. So definitely stop by there and give us a positive review. But that's it for this week, guys. And we will see you next time.
Same bucket
Later, Jimbo.
time, same bucket channel.